like to call the meeting to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Officer Gashi to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're all entitled to our own opinion, and I'd like everybody to have the opportunity to come up here and state your opinion on things. But going back and forth, arguing, yelling tonight, it's not going to be tolerated. We are going to have to ask for the lead or escort you out if it does come to that point. So I'm hoping for a good meeting, and if anybody has any questions or concerns, just get with me. But so we'll just address that before we start it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I get into my report, it's a little different. Last month we allowed a lot of back and forth multiple times to the mic. And tonight you'll get one opportunity to speak at the mic. And so try to collect your thoughts. Really, new information's been given out by the board since our last meeting. So state your position and it'll be considered. My name is Matt Houston. Welcome board members and welcome attendees. Thank you for coming tonight. Some highlights since our last meeting. We have spent an extensive amount of time on budget. Since we last met, we have approved a revised operating budget and we have approved a remaining 2024 CapEx budget. I know it's been brought up multiple times that we have not had a CapEx budget. We do have a CapEx budget now. It's been approved. We'll get into the details of that during Dave's report. But I want to highlight for you, because maybe we see a lot of numbers up here. We see how much money we have in the bank. You know how much you've been assessed, and you know what your dues are. But I want to highlight the numbers just one more time so that you understand the severity of the situation that we're in. We've been a community for 52 years, and we currently have $274,000 in our capital reserve fund. That's all the money that we have to spend. We have 2 months in our emergency reserve fund, 2 months of expenses, roughly $400,000. But we can't touch that. So 275 grand. We're going to show a CapEx budget tonight that spends up 131 of it, 114 of that's yet to be spent. So we're going to have 160 grand, something like that, if we didn't put another nickel into that account. And I think all of you, just from owning your own homes, can understand how thin of a margin that is when you look at all these amenities that we have. So for all practical purposes, we're broke. We're broke. We are one issue away. Pool foundation cracking, dock issue, a small lake dam issue, a couple culverts. We're like one issue away from another assessment. So when you contemplate the cuts that we're making and the sacrifices that we're having to make, please understand that we have to. This isn't like we should or we want to. We have to. Our 40-year reserve study has found that we are roughly, on average, $1 million annually short from what we will need to pave our roads, 32 miles of roads, dredge this lake, maintain the pool, the beach. That's just maintaining our stuff. That's just the new roof every 20 years. That's just like basic maintenance. $1 million annually. And when you look at the reserve study, some years it's $7 million. Some years it's a couple $100,000, but on average it's $1 million. And if we wouldn't have made any cuts to the budget this year, we would have contributed $40,000 to that million. 40 grand, that's it. So we're going to show you a budget tonight that has increased our net income $361,000 for a total of over 400 grand. And that 400,000 is going to go right into our capital reserve account. to start building towards what we need to save as a community. Even with the increased savings, if you do the math, we're still roughly $600,000 short from where we need to be to have enough money to just maintain what we already have. In addition to the budget cuts, we've identified a few pieces of property. It could be sold. And I'd be happy to get into all of that, but it's the 21 acres on State Line. It's the 21 acres on Georgetown. It's a few outlots. We're currently getting proposals from appraisers. We have 2 local appraisers bidding. I'm trying to get a third bidding to come out, take a look at the properties, give us a value that they think those pieces of properties could bring. And then as a board and a community, we can make a decision on whether or not we should part with some of these pieces of property to put towards this $1 million shortfall or $600,000 shortfall. Key initiatives. We met with Sheriff McHenry. He is our Dearborn County elected sheriff. He has agreed to conduct a town hall in HVL on July 10th. George told me that date is a possibility that date moves. But because he said he's free the rest of the next week as well. But right now it's set up for the 10th of July. Town hall meeting discussing emergency response and security in the valley. He's also going to record a brief video for our website, social media accounts, just kind of covering how Dearborn County is going to support Hidden Valley from a security and emergency response standpoint. In addition to that, we've embarked on a few other key initiatives. Chris Fox is going to cover those in his report, and so I will turn it over to him at this time. Well, this is shorter than this. All right. All right, you hear me? First on this mic. A couple things we got going on. Chris Fox, VP. POA servers. It's been an issue for a long time. Something needs to be done. We need to upgrade them. We're looking at possibilities going to cloud services. There's pros and cons about everything, so we're looking into that, trying to figure out what fits our budget, what we can maintain in-house. Beach. There's my own eyes saw during one of our rains, there was a massive weeping coming about halfway out of the beach. That questions whether the drainage is working as it's supposed to. I know we did a big drainage project there. And apparently there's an exposed drain pipe on the south side of the swim area that people have been pointing out. We're gonna have to figure out what that is, if it's part of that project, if it's old construction, if it's even supposed to be there, so we can get rid of that. Also, it feels like it's been chopped up by the crop, so that's some edges off. Don't want kids to get the feet on it. Roads. Obviously, our budget, we don't have much money in there to take care of our roads and do any of our planned maintenance. So we're going to get the roads committee and maintenance, try to identify hot areas that are upcoming severe issues that might cause, whether it's slides, cracking, anything like that. And try to identify those, see if we can cut it off with the head and stop the problem. If you guys have something that you want me to look at or want us to point out, send me an email. Let me know. I can't drive anywhere. We have asked Dave to get with our security team and have them report any issues that they find to maybe call it out. Because obviously we don't drive every road every day. They get around a lot more than us, but you guys live here, you're on the roads all the time. Last thing called out is VRUC. The reality is I've been here for over 6 years, and the relationship between VRUC and Hidden Valley, there's very little communication. I mean, we're their only customer, but nobody that I've talked to seems to understand or know why our water bills are going up. They tell us, but they don't communicate to us. That's what I'm being told. And I agree, because I haven't had any communication. I like to get with them. I like to see if there's any opportunities to be more open to the community, bring back meetings at public times where our community is available, and see if there's any opportunities to share equipment, things they have, things that we don't have that we might be able to use and intertwine potentially to save both of us money and fit our needs. That's really all I got.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Schneider, the treasurer, here to give you the treasurer's report. Our cash position as of May 31st financials are as follows. Capital Reserve Fund is at $274,124. Our Emergency Reserve Fund, $437,072. Our operating funds, $520,950, which gives us a total of $1,232,148. I'd like to follow up a little bit with what Matt was talking about as far as our shortfall on the capital reserve fund. This board has been working really hard to try to reduce our expenses. We've worked really close with Dave, our community manager, to try to come up with some budget cuts on this current year's budget. This slide that's up now shows the budget reductions by department that the board has approved. We are also running a competitive bid process for all of our insurance policies because we haven't done that in a few years and we're trying to get competitive bids on those. We've also met with the golf course to try to make a more hands-on approach and develop short and long range sustainability plan with them. And all of these funds that we have now are all in interest-bearing accounts, which they weren't previously. So just in 2024 alone, we have generated $17,092 in interest, where if you compare that to last year at the same time, we only generated $93. We are also working on additional resources of income, such as advertising spots on our community happenings page and allowing food truck vendors to pay a fee to attend our community activities. All this net income that we're driving will be used and allocated at the end of the year to go directly to our capital reserve fund. Looking over the budget, if anybody has any questions on that. Sure, Tom?
Hi, Tom Cross, 1573, 1574. I noticed reduced security by 39%. How do you plan to achieve that?
The main reduction on the security is reduced hours on lake patrol. On some of the weekdays where we don't have much activity on the lake, we're going to take some of the lake patrol off during those hours. We also have, Dave indicated 2 security personnel that we're already planning to leave, and we just won't be filling those spots.
So we have fewer deputies.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Which addresses what Matt talked about with Dearborn County coming up and doing the town hall with us.
I think the response time is going to be the same from Dearborn County as it will be from one of our deputies here.
I think in a serious situations where you need a deputy here, yes.
We don't have deputies.
We don't have deputies here right now.
We have right.
Security person.
We just have security personnel, but they don't have authority to make an arrest. They're really just, they would report to Dearborn County if there was a situation that needed to be handled anyway.
But they could be a first responder.
Yes.
And potential station response.
Well, if you have an emergency, you need to call 911. And the sheriff's going to discuss that with us.
Sure.
Yeah, and Matt, just to like those emergencies. So Dearborn County has an emergency response plan that everybody can see on their county website that dictates the national standards, Indiana state laws of what the response times are from every individual firehouse, sheriff depot, anything that you can see on the county website. Just because we're incorporated by ourselves doesn't mean we fall outside of the county responsibility for that emergency response plan.
Correct.
So we're well within any national, county, state standard for emergency response timing. So I don't think there's any changes to that activity when you look at the actual what is a law to basically like a governing emergency responder.
The only way
the way we hurt ourselves was by not calling 911 in the event of emergency. And instead first trying our security team. That's just not the intent. That's not what they're here for. That's not what they were here for.
Dave Bushmiller, 2715. I understand that as a board, you know, you guys can make whatever decision you feel need to be made, but as chair of safety and security, I'm a little bit disappointed that none of that was even just carbon copies of our committee before the decision was made. I mean, this is the first I'm here.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on that. One, you know, we've been rolling along with a budget that's been at break even at best now for years. So I'm a little concerned that the committee didn't look at the operating budget and determine what steps could be made in the safety and security budget to address some of these issues. And then second, I think there's been a real disconnect for a long time about what our responsibilities are, what our rangers' responsibilities were compared to what Dearborn County has asked that they be. And I think that's been going on for some time now. I think that's been going on for several years. And so some of this, David, is just that it finally came to a head.
I appreciate
and in fact,
I completely understand with what you're saying, and I think if there was maybe just even a little bit of a conversation, and some of the reasons for that might have been a little more understandable, but you know, I think just to totally leave traditionally the way the decision-making process has been here, from what I understand, just to completely leave the committee in the dark doesn't really seem to be the best way to do business either.
Yeah, I mean, again, we feel like two things. One, we are in an emergency situation. Two, the sheriff is not very happy with us right now for a couple of reasons. Like we still have red and blue lights on our truck, which is on our cars, which is illegal. And they're pissed about it. So there was some things that just needed to happen quickly, David. And I do believe that in the last meeting we said that budget cuts were coming, and they were coming from every department. And so it's not that safety and security is singled out, it's that it was the single largest budget item that we had.
John Dunlop, 1854, 1855. I'm not saying I disagree with anything that is going on. I think it would be fair to ask specifically what those line items are, where they came from for each department. I think that's only fair. I mean, if you come up with a reduction of 20,000 for one, 126,000 for another, we should see specifically where that come from. Because I agree with Dave on the lakes. We hadn't, I mean, not to say that we didn't expect some cuts, but we have no idea where that 20,000 come from, just like Dave does it on his. So if we could see a specific line item, is that fair to ask?
We'd be happy to share that with you. I have it detailed. It was just, it's too much information to try to, I mean, no, it's like 6 pages long. So I tried to condense it so that we could digest it in a board meeting. Sure. But we're happy to share the new budget with anybody who
we'll not only post it publicly.
We can put it on the site.
Yeah, we'll post it publicly, but if you just send the board an email requesting it, we'll send it to you.
We can email it to you. Thank you.
And again, I just can't emphasize enough, and I know that some of you that have spent a lot of years on committees, this isn't quite the way it's happened, but I just can't emphasize enough how dire the situation is. And we heard repeatedly through the election process that nobody wanted another assessment. And if we're not going to take another assessment, then we have to cut the budget. It's just that simple. We're spending money we don't have. Pat?
Could I have a motion, please, to approve the May 23rd board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any questions or concerns about the minutes as written? All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. The office will be closed on Thursday, July 4th for Independence Day. We anticipate a great show this year for 4th of July. The vendors who normally do our fireworks, Premier Pyro, are going to be our vendor again this year. They'll be entertaining us with a fantastic array of fireworks. And we have 3 sponsors for the main show. Savista Bank, Willie's, and SEI RMC Fiber. And then we also have 2 sponsors to enhance the show. So it should be an extra boost for us this year. That would be the SHIP and KPS Capital Partners. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors for helping to make this event a success. We'd like for you to note that we will again be blocking Lakeview at the beach at 6 p.m., allowing only residents and their guests to access the beach and marina. This has worked well for us the last 2 years to reduce outside people coming and taking up some of the prime spots. Please be prepared to show your HVL ID to enter the area. Or if you have guests coming, make sure they know your address. This year marks the 17th Mayor's Boat Parade as part of the 4th of July celebration. The best 6 decorated boats will earn a Williams gift certificate, and the lake will be no wake at 6 p.m. Boats will line up at 6:15, and then there'll be a parade that starts at 6:30. Those who want to know who won will gather at the front cove of the lake to pick up prizes after the parade. If you haven't watched this, if you've never seen this before, it's a fun activity. Under the golf course, our pro shop is open weekdays 7:30, weekends at 7. We recently received high marks for our Elder Golf outing. They've already confirmed the outing for next year. That's one of our largest outings. The extreme heat over the last couple of weeks has been a challenge, but our team has done a great job keeping the course in shape. Fiber optics, you will notice if you go up Longview that there's some major restoration that's happened there. Part of the reason is that an electric line was hit and it wound up creating a lot of digging in that area. And we had just a few years ago fixed this area and had a pretty good drainage system going. So we're happy that they were able to get a lot of this work done. This is part of our front door, so we really wanted to make sure that fiber optics restored this to the best of their abilities. So we're pretty proud of that. We like to also remind people, I know I took a little bit of flack for putting out something about watering your lawn. It's just important not to waste that opportunity. If, you know, they've done the restorations, there's only so many times that they're going to do this restoration. So, you know, we don't want to lose this grass that's being grown up. Our yard waste dumpster, our yard waste areas closed until October. That's worked really well for us. We've saved a lot of money on dumpsters, and I feel like we're addressing the community issues more than outside landscapers and outside people who I believe were filling up our dumpsters. So this has worked out pretty good. So just keep in mind 2 times a year you'll be able to drop off your yard waste. Let me know if those times don't work, and I'll try to adjust it as we go along. But so far, April and October seem to be the months that we need to do that. Sorry, excuse me. Under our lakes, Aqueduct treated the lake, main lake on June 18th. The next treatment is on Tuesday, August the 20th. We found more burrowing activity on the main lake dam And I had a, animal removal company come in. They removed, several bulls. I've never even heard of a bull before this, and some shrews. I have heard of shrews. But, they're cute little animals, but they do a lot of damage to the dam. And our concern is that the way they burrow, they kind of do a straight line, and that exposes the grass. It tears out the grass in that line, and I think eventually it'll cause a slip. So we're addressing that. We're replanting seed and getting the grass to grow on there again in some of those spots. We will also be monitoring that. We'll let our contractor know if we see any more activity, and they'll come back and track them. Our 2024 capital expenses budget, as was mentioned before, we've worked to create this budget for the remainder of 2024. The largest expenses left this year are two pieces of equipment that we've been without so far this year. We've had to rent, we've had to, just make do. These are a skid loader and a mini excavator. And these are the two pieces of equipment our guys use the most in their everyday activities. We're looking for two pieces of used equipment that will replace the two pieces that we had leased for the last 4 years. At the end of our last lease, they raised the price, the monthly price, over $1,000 a month. So it was a pretty significant jump, and we decided then to look at other alternatives, and this is what we've come up with so far. I think we can get two pieces of used equipment that will take us several years. I will also be creating a capital expense budget in the coming months for 2025. Then finally, a couple of things that kind of came in late, or one thing that came in late, solicitors. We've recently had some groups of solicitors that came in. Please let us know. I know some people are okay with solicitors, some people are not. It is something that we don't allow here. And it's been a long-standing tradition not to allow solicitors. We just ask that you call security if you see them, if they come to your door. And if you feel comfortable, let them know that it's not allowed in this community. We have very few cases where they are allowed. Any questions? Yes.
Casey Kennedy, 2543. We're talking about security, and as you think that if we cut our security personnel down to bare minimum, that Dearborn County is going to run up here for a solicitor? Do you think they're going to pull these kids over on a golf cart that everybody's complaining about on the web page? I mean, at what point in time does Dearborn County go, hey, this is a priority and this is not, because you're going to start putting the lifeguards and the pool management staff and everybody else at risk trying to keep violators out when you're asking a 16-year-old kid at the beach to tell somebody to leave if there's nobody available, because I have a hard time believing that Dearborn County is going to come up to run somebody out that's trespassing without an ID.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, the reduction will be from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And those are hours that we have very little activity at all. We plan to have the hours covered from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
I just want to make sure we're not putting our youth at risk at the beach or at the pool or anywhere else where you're having a problem, especially this time of year. Yeah. When it's hot, you've got people coming in. You can't expect our young kids to be responsible for dealing with grown adults.
I'm a cop at heart, so if we had 8 or 10 cops up here, I'd be a very happy guy. So, but again, these things have to be done. We'll do the best we can with what we have to do with.
But well, I understand. We're not dealing with a community that's opposed to pay for what they expect to be protected. I mean, if everybody here says, hey, This is the cost of what we agree to be protected, and this is what, people aren't arguing about that. People would be more than happy to feel like they're safe at home or their kids are safe working for the community than they would to say, hey, we don't have a leg to stand. And in 25 years, I've seen go from rangers to deputies to rangers and everything else. And I just think that the safety of the community is something that we probably ought not to try to cut the nose. I mean, everywhere you take the safety out of every community, whether it be Cincinnati or anywhere else, that's where your crime rate goes up.
Yeah, the problem, Casey, is it's a false sense of safety. 3 years ago, when we were allowed to deputize the folks that worked here, that's a different story. Somebody's trespassing, we can arrest them.
Yeah.
We can put hands on them. We can put them in a car and remove them. Can't do any of those things now. So let's talk about the trespassing issue at the beach if we feel that's an issue. You know, our rangers can politely ask someone to leave, but that's as far as it can go. If they feel that there's trespassing, they're gonna have to call Dearborn County the same as I would. And so there's this false sense of security. And the second thing is we're not cutting hours during the times that people are using these amenities. We're cutting redundancy and we're cutting, and but there's how many people will be on patrol at daytime?
You have a person on 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. 120 patrol.
Well, let me ask you this: that what if when we have this meeting with Shane and them, at what expense are we going to be required to probably help out with our tax dollars going to cover the county?
Yes. We're not being charged anything by the county. What we're trying to make Shane aware of is you've taken away the ability for us to deputize our own security. So right now we have nothing but security, security people, not police officers. But yet you haven't increased the level of patrol in a 2,000 home community. We were clear with them on that. We asked them for the resources, and we said that the expectation is that, you know, you scratch our back, we'll scratch your type thing. You want to use the guard shack in the front as an outpost or something? Sure. Is there anything else we can do for you? You know, we share resources, things like that. But if you're not going to allow us to deputize people, then what's the offset to that? And that's the whole point of the town hall, is we want him to hear folks say, we're concerned. Like, this board's not tying our hands from a security standpoint, the county is. So and all this board's doing is recognizing where we have redundancy, where it's not helping anything, and trying to slim it down. So that's the whole point of the town hall. I urge anybody who's concerned about it to come and voice your concerns. And we have 32 miles of roads in here. We're far and away the biggest community in Dearborn County. I would expect that we just get a little bit more attention, and that's what we're kind of asking him for. But what he's doing on the other end is saying, yeah, but I'm upset about a few things too. So can we right?
I didn't want us to be to where we weren't a priority if there was a situation, because
we are advocating for that.
There's too many people up here that got their young daughters and have to work at Sunday snack.
We have 5 kids in our house.
I know.
And I got a lot of property I don't want stolen.
Exactly.
I'm as concerned as anybody, but I'm also going to recognize when we're spinning our wheels on something and not get anywhere.
I'm not arguing. I just wanted to add that question.
I think the bottom line is, what can we do to get them deputized to bring back what was happening 3
He
years ago?
refuses.
That's, I started that program when I was sheriff, and it's always been the weakness of the program, is that it really depends on the sheriff, wanting to do that. They take on a lot of legal responsibility, a lot of liability, and that's always been the weakness of that program. It's the best thing that we could come up with at the time, and it worked for a long time. But and every sheriff since has started off that they were going to do away with that deputy thing. That was one of the things that they talked about during the election. And when we talked to them, you know, during the election, they changed their mind. They saw that it was a necessity. It's always incumbent on the sheriff making that determination.
Bob O'Brien, 123. Sorry. I probably should know this, but is Art, your board sheriff, is he elected?
He's elected.
Yeah.
He's elected.
When is the election?
In 2 years.
We need to let him know.
He's term limited. He's in his last 2 years.
So.
We'll have a new sheriff in 2 years.
Carl.
Gotcha. And he's gonna.
Yeah.
Brian Mueller, 2461-2. So what I'm gathering from the board and Dave is, and Casey also, is if you have an issue, sounds like you should probably call 911, because that's going to show Dearborn County how much assistance we actually do need.
Yes.
Right? In addition, go to the town hall meeting when that
And voice
is
your
in
concern.
July,
Yes.
and voice your opinion to the sheriff and say, you know, you're not protecting us correctly because we are taxpayers.
Yeah, I mean,
And
as a new board, we led with, can we get back to deputizing our people? That's how we started this conversation. The answer was not no, it wasn't. Right? So, okay, well then what can we do? But by all means, come, voice the concern, and the more 911 calls they get, then they'll realize, well, you know, maybe we get 5 times more than any other community. We're probably 5 times bigger than any community.
right.
And maybe they'll allocate some resources to us.
Great.
Yeah, back in the back.
Ryan Roberts, 129.
Hey, Ryan.
I've been pretty vocal about it.
We can't hear him.
Yeah, we can hear.
Can somebody hand him that, that microphone?
That way they can
I think-
record what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it comes out. Thanks.
Loud enough?
Just a little more loud.
The louder?
Yeah.
It's Ryan Roberts, 129. And I've been pretty vocal about my support for the security and wanting to keep them in place. I think everybody knows that. But just from what I'm gathering from this conversation, I'm really trying to understand, you know, the directive is to call security if we see trespassers on the beach, if we see, you know, any type of immunity being utilized or abused by non-residents. My question is, what are they going to do when they get there?
That's the best, that's what we're trying to get at too, right? Hopefully, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Hopefully the uniform and the presence, if security were to get there, is enough to maybe thwart whoever's using the beach may not understand the nuance between a ranger and a deputy, or, you know, so hopefully that's enough to get people moving on their way. But the bottom line is if they dug their heels in and said, no, I'm not leaving, you need to call the dispatch, or I don't know if you call 911 and I don't know if that would be considered emergency, but you certainly call the dispatch office and say, we have trespassers and they refuse to leave.
And with that mindset, is it fair to look into opportunities where we can better spread out the security presence that we do have and place them in high frequency zones with the thought process of if they see them, they're more likely to be deterred than if they're already in the action. Then we actually have to make a direct contact with them.
Yes, of course, right. And I think Dave does that as part of his job. We've also looked at possibly outsourcing like security, like signing a management agreement or a master services agreement with like a Securitas or something like that. So that if we had peaks of times where we needed more presence, we could bring in more presence. So then that cost becomes variable instead of fixed. So that's another option. But, you know, until we get some type of agreement with the county on how, on the resources they're going to provide us, and then clear direction on exactly what to do, you know, like I said, I just didn't want this community to have this false sense of security. And you can't believe what you read on Facebook because it's not true. And as a board, we're not going to jump on Facebook and say, well, we've had all these conversations with the sheriff and here's what he said, right? That's not very responsible. So, if you have questions about this stuff, reach out to us directly because we are working in the background to try to make it as the best we can.
Last thing is there was talk in previous board meetings regarding some type of agreement that was made with the local sheriff's department with some type of gun training, firearm training, where they were on board with our security being able to carry essentially
Yeah,
And it sounded like that was a very different mindset in terms of what our security team was allowed to do versus where we are today.
our security team can carry a handgun if they have a personal carry permit, right? Concealed carry permit. But they're carrying it as a citizen, not as an officer.
Software that we were buying that we were gonna let the county use.
I don't know about that, Dave.
I'm sorry.
There was software that we were gonna let the county use in exchange
That
for
a training
firearm.
program.
Yeah, that's with Ivy Tech. Our officers were involved. We have several officers who are also West Harrison, town officers. And they were involved in some of the training that, Ivy Tech has this new training, system. Kind of like the, shoot, don't shoot scenarios. That type of thing. That may be what you're talking about.
Yeah, it just sounded like we were on a much more progressive path towards obtaining authority for our security versus, taking a huge step backwards.
In the county's point of view, we've had this step backwards now for a while. The gentleman in the back had his hand raised forever. He's gonna be next, and then the gentleman in the corner. So one second, Dave, we're gonna go to him.
Tim Gallagher, lot 376. I have one question in the statement. That question is, on July 10th, the town hall meeting with the sheriff will be held where?
We haven't determined that location yet. This room is booked. George, informed me at this meeting that we're working on securing a place at Willie's, but that has not been determined. I also offered the private room at Shift Restaurant. If nothing else can be worked out, we can do it there. I'd rather do it on property. It'd be easier for everyone. But regardless, we will have a location. So as soon as George hears back from Willie's about whether or not we can use that room, we will be posting it in happenings and on our social media.
Okay, and all I've got to say about the continuous ongoing with safety committee, security, whatever, is you're opening up all of us, all you people who live here, you're looking at a big lawsuit. With these people running around with guns, we already went through this long time ago, 6 months ago, where we had a armed security ranger, whatever we're calling them nowadays, who was on duty, and he was 3 times over the drunk limit, carrying a gun, driving a community car, responding to an emergency scene. So what do you want to do, people? You think we're in a dire hole now financially? How'd you like to have to pay $12 million on a lawsuit? What's your assessment going to be then? So if you need a cop, if you need a security, call 911. You can't depend on what we have driving around here in these cars. They're not trained, they've got no authority, they can't pull you over. So Sugar Ridge doesn't have security, they got the cops. They got Dearborn County. So why do we need people driving around, opening up a possible lawsuit for all of these people? So think about it.
Thank you. Over here in the corner.
Hey, David, it seemed like we had some momentum into forging a relationship with West Harrison. To have actionable Leos back on our streets. I guess that's dead in the water, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it my understanding, Dave, that the county attorney didn't want to pursue that?
County attorney and the prosecutor will vote against that. And as I said, the reserve situation, none of these are the best situations. We've tried to come up with some ideas that would provide an extra level of protection. And some, they work for a long time.
Yeah, I just want to bring up for the people that are affected water, their restorations. Don't forget that there's a separate water meter available at Valley Rural and save you a ton of money. Okay?
Yeah, if you're watering your grass, make sure you use that separate water meter.
I didn't know that.
From using it. Otherwise, it'll account for your sewage.
Yeah, directed that. Oh. And then also, my contractor today said he spotted 4 muskrats down there in the creek. So
down there.
yeah, so it might be worthwhile to get some traps out or something. That's pretty much it. Oh, 1899, Jeff. You're on down here. Yes.
Anybody else on this topic? We can move on.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Tom Cross Architecture.
Good evening. Tom Cross, Architecture Committee. To the board this evening, we have a property bond request in the number of 6. Let me preface these by saying there are no dues, fines, or fees owed on any of these properties. And I'll ask the board, do you want to vote on them individually or as a group? As a group. All right. We start with lot number, excuse me, 351, property address is 907 Green Tree Road, John and Eloise Gates, bond amount $500. Lot 2224, property address 1433 Charlogan Way, Julie and Stephen Mason, owners, bond amount $500. Lot 2214, property address 1282 Sandemont Drive, Kelly and Wayne Meyer, bond amount $500. Lot number 2747, located at 20655 Alpine Drive, Stephen and Sheila Stemio. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. If I did, I apologize. Bond amount $500. Moving on, lot 83, located at 1282 Sandemont Drive, Mitchell and Michelle Muir, bond amount $2,000. And finally, lot 1888, located at 1572 Aqua Vista Drive. It's owned by U.S. Bank Shears Trust, bond amount $500.
I might have a question. I'll make a motion for acceptance, but before we move forward, I'd like to ask a question. Should we have a second so that we can open for discussion?
I'll second.
Okay. The question, is I noticed the address, it must be a typo, but on Sandemont, the address for both of the properties is the same.
83 and 2314.
Yes, they are.
Hey, Tom. It's probably the first ones.
Mr. Myers in the house, if you perhaps want to shed some light on that.
I'm 1282.
Okay.
I'm 2314.
You have someone living with you?
Nope.
Uh, Bob, I can't explain that.
We just have to make sure we point it out to Tina to get it fixed.
Very good. Appreciate that. I'm sorry I didn't catch it. You sure you don't have anyone living with you?
Yeah, so at any rate, personally, I'm good to go. Matt, if you want to.
Sure, yeah. Let's take a vote on accepting the returns. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
That's all I have.
Finance Committee, Kyle Packer.
Hello. A couple motions. We'll wait for this for a second. First one is to accept the May financials of POA golf course.
I'll make that motion.
Great.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. The second thing I think we're going to address is the bylaws. This is the second reading. A motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just want to
yeah.
thank you and Michelle.
Yeah.
And Donnie Esser and Jeff Fuel before for all their help in bringing these to resolution.
Thank you.
There's only we have one other change we want to make to it. I think it's just a fee change. So basically, we have a transfer fee, and the way it reads right now, 0.25%. And we just want to modify that, it's the greater of $500 or 0.25%. So for example, if you had a $20,000 lot that transferred, that person will want to pay $50 to come into the POA. So we thought it made sense to make a line. So is that something you guys would vote on? How are you guys looking at that?
Yeah, I'll be voting.
Yeah, okay. Great.
I'll make a motion to make that change.
And then if you can go back one, if not. Oh, did you get, okay.
Yeah, can we get a vote?
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye. And we've been trying to do this slide every month just so everybody can kind of, follow along again. Just to remind everybody, our full financial package is on our website. It's the exact same package that we look at, the board looks at. So you guys have as much data if you're can't sleep at night, peruse. But again, this is kind of how we're tracking through May, and you'll see, I look at the total. Our revenue is pretty predictable, very predictable. And I'm really looking at the total expense line item. We're doing about 54,000 so far this year, better than budget for expense. And again, with what Michelle laid out, we'll pick up speed as the year goes on. So any questions from anybody? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George, future planning.
Good evening, everyone. I'm George Lawrence, president or chair of the Future Planning Committee. Lot 1882 and 1860. We have two different groups of things we're working on. The first is our major future planning initiatives. The first three of those were started last year with the former board, and that is going to have to be revisited now that we have 4 new board members. So that is to be determined when we revisit 1 and 2. Right now, we're kind of on the table on both of those. We've made a verbal commitment for number 3. The main item there is a possible new community survey. And we need some more discussion about the content and when and where and that type of thing. So the first 3 are all basically waiting for time with the board.
I can comment on number 2.
Absolutely.
So in our meeting with Dave Havener, regarding the golf course on the 20th of June, he indicated that he would be able to get us a short-term and a long-range plan, along with a list of all of their board of advisors and some type of definition of chain of command of decision-making process. And so by the next board meeting, we should, I don't know if we'll have it in time for the next future planning. We'll certainly have it in time for the board meeting. I'll forward you that. And if you want to discuss it in the July meeting, we can. If you want to wait till August or after you've had a chance to digest it, we'll do that too. But that should be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions on or comments on the first 3? We are assisting other committees. We've been doing this for years with bylaws changes. We have two committees we're working with now, and there will be bylaws changes with those committees this year. No time deadline on those yet. And then finally, the last one is a request made last year for possible bylaws updating with our water quality issues, which will not go away. State of Indiana keeps reminding us that this has to be addressed. That currently we're waiting to hear back on the requirements for that, but that will probably also be bylaw changes if we do it. So the second group of things we worked on are more short-term in nature. The 3R task force did a lot of work since the last board meeting. Those of you who have seen the new Willie signs, those were all done by that task force. We have 2 others in the immediate works. One of them is the possible creation of a couple of new picnic areas around Hidden Valley.
And the second one is going to be some more, improvements to the front entrance. Nothing major, the water wheel is not going away. But we do have some more enhancements for that. The communications task force, we really have a whole bunch of things to work there on there. The two main ones right now that Rich is working on or focusing on have already been mentioned today. The first one is the possibility of ads for happenings. And there already is a plan, a draft of a plan on how to do that. And the second one is, what are we going to do with our website? And I believe I understood a mention there, maybe outsourcing that. Is that the comment? So those are the two of the 9 right now that are getting the most attention. Happenings, by the way, is, in our opinion, an amazing success. We've had a lot of good feedback on that, and that is only getting better. Town hall meetings, we've done 3 already this year. The one in the hopper right now is the one that Matt mentioned, and that's the meeting with involving Shane McHenry. We hope to do that on the 10th. There are some logistics to be worked on there, but until you hear differently, it's going to be the 10th.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes.
I just got a text from Steve.
Oh, great. Okay, we got a venue. Great. So we'll be in the basement of Willie's for the 10th. 7 o'clock start time. We'll go till we drop. At any rate, we'll be conversing with Shane on that about what, when, and how, and what we're going to talk about. Okay, the SOP is also kind of a pipe dream right now. We're looking at the possibility of maybe shuffling around some of the contents of our article of incorporation, our bylaws, and possibly bringing an SOP into more use than we have today. That is not off the ground yet. That's just a plan at this point. Okay, we also have a series of 6 bylaws that we are working on ourselves. We're working on the future planning because these particular bylaws fall in an area of the bylaws that is not assigned to any other particular committee. If you go through the chapters in the bylaws, you can pretty much assign, and it's assigned logically, the different sections are assigned to certain specific committees. And it is pretty obvious how that is. However, there's a whole section of bylaws that aren't assigned to any committee. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, future planning agreed to take that on and assist the board with those particular bylaws that don't fall in the jurisdiction of any particular committee. So we have 6 of them in the hopper. We want to introduce the first one tonight. And I think we have some handouts if you'd like to look at what we're talking about. But we also have some visuals. So the subject of this particular bylaw is something that has been missing for a long time in Hidden Valley, although we used to have it, and that is a removal of a board member bylaw. And so I would like to request the board, they've seen this document for about a week and a half now. I'd like to request a motion of the board to consider this bylaw.
George, the problem I have with it is, as the liaison to your committee, this bylaw change was not brought up in the last future planning meeting. So I had no ability to review it, and I had no ability to bring it back to the board and have them review it. In addition to that, just the cycles of our executive session, it's missed that cycle. So we haven't been able to digest this as a team. So I'd like to make a motion just to table it for this month while we have an opportunity to discuss it.
Okay, so we're not gonna have a motion.
I mean,
But so I'll,
I'm going to make a motion to at least get it out there before the community and before the board.
well, it's in front of the community right now, but we haven't had the opportunity to review it or anything, so.
I understand, and we may make changes, the community may make some suggested changes. But I think it's important to have this because, correct me if I'm wrong, in the absence of any specific bylaw about removing a board member, whatever is applicable in the state of Indiana for not-for-profits is enforced. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, let's face it, that is a much lower barrier than this, so I'd be happy with this.
Well, I do have, Matt, I do have 8 or 10 little introductory comments, which I legitimately can't make unless there is a second to the motion. But unless you care to hear one of these comments, it's kind of an introduction to the rest of the audience about what this is all about. So I'll leave that up to you.
Again, Georgia, we've gone without it for like 5 to 10 years.
More like 25.
25 years. I just think another month to have the opportunity for us to discuss it.
First?
Yeah,
Yes.
But if I, unless there's a second.
Actually, Matt said she would motion it, she didn't motion it. Matt made a motion first to table it, so I think the board president's motion should go first.
Chris did second it. We'll take a vote on it now. All in favor of tabling this discussion until the next board meeting, say aye. Aye. 3-2.
Okay, thank you very much.
And George, if those comments that you were talking to the anecdotal, can we get that?
Sure.
Can the board get it so that we'll put it on the.
We'll make it available.
Our executive session agenda is coming up like the second week of
We'll
July.
make it available to the community.
Dave Patterson, Lakes Committee.
Dave Patterson, with the 33. At the end of last board meeting, Jim Bittner, one of the co-chairs of the Lakes Committee, resigned from the committee. I'm going to miss you. Stay in touch. Thank you for your help and service.
Yeah, we can't hear anything.
Any better?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, let's start over. I'm Dave Patterson, lot 1533. At the end of the last board meeting, Jill Bittner, one of our 2 co-chairs, resigned from the committee, which leaving us attempting the co-chair position. Thanks again, Jim. On June 9th, Ted Gimberly, for their other co-chair, notified us that he was not going to function as a co-chair anymore either. Therefore, both of our co-chairs had left the position. We weren't sure if we were going to have a June meeting whatsoever. We did end up having one, and John Dutton stepped up to run that meeting. Thank you, John. After the meeting, the members of the committee discussed replacing the chair. They asked me if I would take it on again. I agreed as long as I could count on their 100% support. They all agreed to that. We conducted a more formal vote via email, which resulted in my being elected as the chairman of the Lakes Committee. As such, from the June meeting, we had 2 people come in to talk about both candidates. One person wanted a variance, the other person wanted an approval. We approved both of those. There was a discussion of filling our vacancies. We have 2 vacancies on the committee right now, and we have 4 qualified candidates who have applied. We're hoping to get the interviews done and the vote done before the July Lakes Committee, so we can get full committee once again. On the board meeting, Chris noted that was concerned about where does the beach fall. The beach is not in the lakes arena anymore. It's under parks. Fish and Game Club reported that they had removed 247 slots from the lake. Jim Garno has done the lake quality tests and all look good. The discussion for lakes, committees, chairs, the bylaw cleanups and so forth. At the time of the meeting, without any chairs or anything, we just tabled anything else that was going on. So that's the end of my report.
Well, we will need a motion to welcome you back formally as the chair. But stay like
I'll second.
All in favor of Dave? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. So this brings us to the motion to approve revised bylaw. The wording on this is allowing wake surfing, but it's been allowed, so it's not really the title of that motion, but second reading. We'll go through a motion, we'll go through a second, and before we take a vote, if you have a comment, you will be allowed to comment. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised bylaw allowing wake surfing second reading. Can I get a second? Thank you. The way this will work is, if you'd like to talk, please just come up to the microphone up here. If it's too crowded, you can start a line over here as well. We're not going to put a time limit on it because I didn't like it when a time limit was put on me. But if your comments are becoming redundant, then we'll move along. So again, we can also utilize this one as well if this line gets too long. So Tom, feel free to start us off.
Tom Cross, 1573 and 4. Myself and a number of other people, residents here in the Valley, have sent letters or emails, I should say, to
we've received 11.
Can't hear back there? Can't hear.
We received 11 of those letters.
Okay. And of the other residents that sent them, along with myself, I received your form letter in response. I also asked Mr. Fox and Ms. Schneider to respond. They did not have the courtesy to do so. In your response, and I have it here in front of me.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things I'd like to bring up. First of all, your mathematics. Only 17% of the people in the Valley wanted the wake surfing stop. To get to that 17%, we had about 600 votes. 58% was against wake surfing, 42.
No, 58% was no.
Excuse me, you're correct. Against wake surfing.
Well, no against the ballot. Again, was no.
Can I continue?
Well,
I'm pretty sure you understand the ballot. Did we want wake surfing?
You might be the only one.
No, we didn't understand the ballot.
I didn't understand. Okay, but go ahead.
We had 50% vote against and 42% for. That 58% came out to about 348 votes, and the 42% to around 252. You took that 348 and applied it to the 2,000 residents in this community,
right?
And you came up with 17% are against this.
Well,
and then you went on to say, and I quote, nowhere does it state that a vote of 17% of the community requires a bylaw change. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, correct me if I get off the truth here. What if we look at that from the other side? 42% said they were for it. All right, that's about 252 votes. You put that against the 2,000 residents that we have in the Valley, and that comes up to 12.6%. So we can say that 88% of the people in the Valley either wanted it, didn't understand the ballot, or didn't decide to vote. Now, if nowhere in our bylaws does it say If we have to make a bylaw change, it's only 17% of it. How in the world can you say that you can make the change with 12%? Can you answer me that?
Yeah, because as a board, that vote doesn't mean anything. It's an indication, according to our bylaws, the vote means nothing.
What? That's.
We vote on one thing, we vote on capital expenditures about 15% of our budget. That's what we vote on in our bylaw.
This is who we elected.
Tom?
All right, I
No,
point.
I gotta finish.
Oh, go ahead.
The ballot was a ballot of, do you choose to ban an activity? Or do you choose to so highly restrict that activity that it's essentially a ban? Why are there only 2 choices? Why aren't there 4 choices? Why are there 3 choices? Why wasn't it? Why wasn't a vote? Why wasn't the ballot written representative of all the issues just coming out of the town hall meeting that we had? We have numerous letters by the board stating that they voted no because they didn't like the language, not because they didn't support wake surfing.
Do you have proof of that? Or that's just hearsay.
I have the letters.
You also have the letters that we sent you.
The 11? Yes.
11.
You said.
I happen to know more than 11 people personally.
We just counted them today.
Okay. Okay, can I go on with my next point? Or
yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like everyone in the room this evening and those listening at home to understand exactly what this board will be voting on this evening. They have titled it Allowing Wake Surfing. But in addition to that, they're making a number of changes to Section 7 in our bylaws, which is the Lakes Committee. It has everything to do with voting on the lake, what you can do in your boat, what you can't do, when you can do it, when you can't do it. In addition to allowing wake surfing, they are deleting proper documentation used as proof of length. So we no longer have to prove what the length of our boat is. We can put it on the lake. You're deleting that. High-speed operation is prohibited. You're deleting that. That says that no high-speed operation of any watercraft is permitted on the main lake when the lake is at a no-wake idle speed. That's a yellow light if you're a boater and you know that, or a red light. That means the lake is closed. You want to delete it. So we can operate our boat anytime we want at any speed we want, no matter what the lights on the lake says. This is what you're proposing. In addition to that, you're also proposing that the 7-10-12, which prohibits dangerous and damaging waves on our lake. So, and again, by deleting that, I can take my boat out on the lake, I can operate it in a dangerous manner, I can damage property, and it's not a problem.
Can you give me the number?
Sure, 7-10-12. You're deleting it. You're the one that wrote it. You should know it.
You just talked about like 6 different clauses.
They're all in Section 7. This is your proposal.
Section 7.
Your proposal, sir.
Tell me where it was deleted.
I just told you.
You told me the one.
7-8-7. Proper documentation used as proof of length. You're deleting 7-9-4. Time for high-speed operation is prohibited. You're adding the wake surfing issue, telling us that we can wake surf on the lake. And finally, you're deleting 7-10-12, dangerous or damaging wake. I have it in my hand, sir.
7-8-7.
Does everyone in the room understand this?
Yeah.
Does everyone understand what we're trying to do?
It was repealed in, it didn't change. It was repealed in 2018.
I'm sorry, but you are absolutely deceiving this audience.
I am?
Yes, absolutely. But when you're saying they're deleting the high-speed time,
I didn't see you in line, sir.
If you want me to get in the line to respond to you?
Yeah.
No, let him talk.
Go ahead.
Continue.
They're deleting a paragraph that's a duplicate that says when the lake is already by the light, what the rules are already defined. They're deleting a paragraph that's a redundant paragraph that doesn't need to be in there.
Where's the other paragraph?
Right above it, 792, water trap, green light means this, yellow light means this, solid light means this.
Mm-hmm.
So to say this board and point out Matt is deleting something and attack him is deceiving to this audience. In the fact that you're trying to say that a person is trying to do this when they're deleting a redundant paragraph.
Dave, would you like to comment? Dave, would you like to comment?
Dave Patterson, 1533
I would like to see these come to the Lakes Committee for a full review before they get voted on.
Yes.
The Lakes Committee that couldn't do this for 4 years.
If I could, my final thought. Okay. You're obviously gonna try to put this in the seat. Now, you may want. But I say to you, sir, this is the tip of the iceberg. When you say you have no concern over what this community voted for or what this community wants, yet you sit in that seat and you're supposed to represent the community.
That's not what I said. We have absolute concern, but you're trying to take something away over a 17% vote when multiple people said they voted incorrectly, they made a mistake.
Well, you're trying to enact it with a 12% vote.
We're actually trying to help. We're allowed now, Tom. We're trying to help. It's allowed now. Yes, it is. We're actually putting a compromise in place. There's no restriction. I've been doing it for 12 years out here, John. It's gonna go from no restrictions.
We're just trying to wait for 12 years because the law or bylaw is not enforced by the lake patrol.
No, the bylaw's not clear. It's not specifically saying wait. It's subjective. And what's a dangerous way to abolish it?
Unbelievable. Anyone else have any questions of me?
Next.
Howard Woodson, lot 1864. I don't know a lot about wake surfing, but I do know that I saw the national news this week that 2 dams gave way in the west. My concern is just about the dam. And maybe it's fine right now. I don't know anything about it. Is the dam considered pretty, I know it sounds crazy, pretty stable and in very good condition?
I can address that. So in the last month, I've spent time setting up 3 different meetings. First with our dam inspector, John Pease. Next with Jeffrey Fox, who wrote our emergency action plan. And next with Robert Chan, the dam engineer for the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. John Pease's email, Rich, you pull it up if you want. John Pease's email said that he has no concern as long as there's a buffer zone and that there is riprap or armoring on the dam face. He said that he has not seen an issue with our dam from an erosion standpoint, and then he put the typical caveat in there of continuing to monitor. Can you pull up Jeff Fox's now, Rich? Jeff Fox is the emergency action plan author for Burke Engineering. And again, he stated that as long as we have a buffer zone, hard armor along the upstream slope, with that said, it sounds like we have both, I don't have a concern. And then finally, Robert Chan went a little bit further. He said, when I asked if he would be willing to list the wake activities on the lake as a possible concern for dam failure, he said, no, I will not list that. I don't have any concerns about it.
So the dam is inspected monthly, correct?
The dam's inspected annually, I believe.
Biannually. Okay, I'm just curious. I don't know anything about it. But so if anything did come up,
we have motion sensors on it too.
Okay, so it would come immediately.
Yes.
All right, that's my question. My main concern was on the dam.
Thank you. We do have a concern though with the size of our spillway and whether or not anybody's done any engineering or analysis on the size of our spillway. So that's something coming up for the 2025 budget. Very expensive.
I'm Kathy Barnum, 2270. My husband Jim and I have lived here for 33 years. What, you can't hear me?
Right down.
Kathy Barnum, 2270. Is that good?
There she is.
My husband and I have lived here for 33 years, and we've been through different cycles of uproars, like, you know, crowded rooms in the meeting. I feel like I'm getting an echo. Anyway.
You're clear.
You know, I feel like Hidden Valley is so special, and we're so lucky to live here. When I go to Kroger's and find somebody at the grocery line and they live from Hidden Valley, and we realize that, and we kind of share a special bond. because we have common values, outdoor activities and things that we love. So, but over the years, just like in a family, we don't always agree. So, we used to have a really high standard of lake security. It's funny how it's transitioned. Money is such, I appreciate you all working on the money issue. But at that time, people were so upset because we had locked gates, but people who got sick of it would have to have somebody, then, you know, when security would come, they would have locked gates and they couldn't get in. And so to expedite getting in, we finally gave up our gates. People were very upset that wanted the gates up for safety, but that was a long time ago. But we accepted the majority vote and we moved on. Another time, there was an issue. What are we going to do with the 77 acres? A lot of our elderly people wanted condos. Naturally, they didn't want to leave Hidden Valley. And, but a lot of nature lovers, we are, gave us the majority vote for what we have today. And, so despite the disappointments, we have applied that democratic process and marched on together. Today, we have the most controversial issue, and I really empathize with all of these many neighbors who want to enjoy the lake the way they have been, but the wake surfing. But it's never been permitted in Hidden Valley. This bylaw that you're deleting 7, 10, 12 has been there for a very long time. Damaging dangerous wake is prohibited. The use of installed boat devices or boat operations that cause the creation of damaging or dangerous wake are prohibited on Hidden Valley Main Lake. It's not stated, I saw online what was deleted, but that's what it was deleted. So people who think, I mean, I really think a lot of people just assumed it was fine. Because everybody's doing it, it's fine. We just permitted it because of not being able to measure the weight and the waves and things like that.
We permitted it because we've gone back 5 years and there's still no, there's one damage report in 2024 to the board.
One day. The little girl that got that. Away I think 5 and she was on the beach 5 years old. 4-year-old. Yeah. Josephine.
The reason is because dangerous is a subjective term, right?
Yeah.
And wake surfing has absolutely been allowed on this lake. It's never not been allowed. Creating a dangerous wave is what hasn't been allowed. And you might look at a wave and decide it's dangerous, and I might look at a wave and decide it's dangerous. Rich, could you just tee up that video? I just took a video on my pontoon 2 days ago. I just want everybody in the room to understand what we're talking about. Play this video, and I want you to tell me if you think this is a dangerous or damaging wave. I came as close to this boat passing by me as I felt was safe. This boat is surfing. This is what surfing looks like. You see the gentleman behind the boat. He does not have a rope. He is surfing. You're past it. All right, so now we're going to switch over and we're going to look at what this wave looks like. I was just demonstrating. This is what the wave coming at me looks like now. This is the wave. This is as close as you can get to this boat. I passed it at 75 feet. This is the wave. That's the turbulence caused by this wave. That's what came out of the back of the boat. This is what the dangerous and damaging thing is. You just saw the wave.
You know,
but please go ahead. I just want everybody to understand what we're talking about.
I understand. I also understand that, you know, I don't know if you want to relitigate all of the different stories, but because there's so many, I personally was just aware of Tom Cross. And he's a big guy on a dock fishing with 2 other men and got washed in the wave, washed him off of the dock in between.
That didn't happen.
Between
That's incorrect.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
what is your basis for saying?
Because we don't have a wave that can be created by a 20-foot boat that's washing over our dock.
I'm sorry. They weren't lying. There's two
Do you
people who
wake
were
surf?
with him. No,
Have you ever been on a wake surfing boat?
my kids do it. I don't do it. But they do it in Dale Holland, at Finger Lake, yeah. But anyway, I think I'm getting off my little script. But I know my husband was on Lake Committee, and I know that they've done extensive research, and there's multiple studies supporting that it's not safe. I've been on the beach, you know, when the waves are high for little kids, and I was in a meeting. Started going back to POA meetings when I heard about our budget issues. February of 2023, Doc was in charge. And I was shocked because I wasn't too into this issue of wake surfing. There were so many people complaining, when are you going to do something about these high wakes? They're dangerous. My kayak was swamped. My dock was swamped. There was lots of people talking and went on and on. And there was really no plan. I went back to look at that, at the, you know, the video of that, of the meeting, to find out who were those people that were speaking. That whole section is missing. I think there was internet problems, so whatever, but we don't, maybe that it's in the minutes, but there's a lot of people who have to complain. You can't call everybody a liar, you know, especially when you have witnesses. Anyway, but there is a lot of research anyway, is what I was leading to. And I know that the Lake Committee knows about that. So I'm all excited. So we can assert that wake surfing at Hidden Valley is a threat to homeowners' shorelines, to the safety of the people on the lake, on the docks, and on the beach. Our lake is just too small. With the wake surfing vote, as in the past, we must respect the majority vote inherent in the existence of our bylaws, offering us. We offer a vote on this type of thing. Special or referendum election is what we had over whether we were going to have a compromise trial period or not. So the assumption in an election is that people accept the majority vote. Our board of directors is obligated to represent the majority consensus. Otherwise, there's no reason to have an election or even a community meeting if the board ignores its obligation to represent our board. Yeah. So the people who voted no on wake surfing voted against a trial compromise on wake surfing.
That's not true.
Hidden Valley is not an autocracy. As our Hidden Valley history reveals, controversial issues have been resolved by a majority vote. We accept the decision and we move on. That in my husband's Lake Committee file, I found a couple letters that you had sent out to the board of directors. And quoting your letter of August 3rd, 2023, you cite the cases in Indiana law from your Denton legal team. In the letter, your legal team states, in the event that the board approves any proposed prohibition of activities such as wakeboarding or wake surfing, please be advised that Mr. Houston will not hesitate to avail himself of all available legal and equitable remedies. Kind of scary letter. And Matt, you or your legal team have written multiple threatening letters to the board members, and 3 committee members. One by one, we lost our long-term board members. Bob Starks is the only one left from the previous board. And I heard one person said he can afford to lose his house. The Lake Committee is has completed an investigation of the task force concerns. And in a board meeting I was here, and John Dutton was able to clarify the task force's misinterpretation of a study. The group purported to support the safety of wake surfing on our lake. Actually, the opposite is true. And John was also a candidate in competition with all of you, but then he eventually resigned, withdrew his candidacy. And in addition, we lost 2 committee chairs, as was just mentioned. Well, it may be legal to send intimidating letters to our volunteers. I don't think it's ethical. Your approach left us with a majority of pro-wake surf candidates, and now we have a majority board who advocates for wake surfing. Another quote from your legal team states,
We advocate for homeowner and property rights.
Yeah, on our top.
the laws of, so here from your legal team, this was in, I'm just pulling out a piece. The laws in Indiana pertaining to POAs are specifically written this way and upheld by case law to prevent the stacking of a board which would side with a special interest group. This calls into question the recent election of the board of directors. That was the end of the quote. While this statement was written for the previous board, I submit this also applies to our new board of directors. I hope the board can see that ignoring the majority vote is a failing strategy. I empathize with our neighbors, I really do, who face the loss of an activity they love. It is my hope that Hidden Valley can move forward with with friendship and respect of each other's diversity of opinions while we agree to honor the Hidden Valley standard that difficult decisions are resolved by a majority vote. Finally, I would like to hear from Michelle, Chris, and Matt individually. I ask that each of you please explain how you justify a decision to ignore a majority vote. Michelle, I'd like to start with you because I haven't really heard from you.
Sure. Well, I got appointed to the board before this new board started. So I kind of came into the middle of all this. I guess my stance is compromise is always the right place to start. I wanted to do a vote just amongst the board for a compromise. There were a couple of board members that were advised by the legal that send this out to the community so that they wouldn't have to take responsibility and they could put it off on the community. I also asked when I got on the board to see documentation so I can do my research. I'm an accountant, so I'm very analytical, detailed, like a black and white numbers person. So I asked to see documentation of property damage that was caused by this activity or any formal complaints, and they didn't have any to give me. I also asked to read the dam inspection reports so I could see if it was notated in there, if there was any damage or a concern about our dam, and there was none. The engineering report said the same thing. Trying to think of what else. I just feel like, when we start taking like a minority activity and trying to take that away, that it's kind of a slippery slope. There could be people that don't like fishermen because they're getting lures in their boats and on their dam, and then we could put it out to a vote to ban fishing on the lake. So I just feel like it's a slippery slope. So those are my main reasons.
I think we have trust concerns now. Yeah. It's not just this, it's if you don't respect our voice, what next? And it may be perfectly fine, but it shows to have a majority vote be discounted. Anyway, Chris, Matt,
I didn't know if you wanted to go in order. Yeah, not only should it not have went to a vote, it should have went to a third party to write the vote. So we had a board member, or maybe 2, write the ballot without any input from the other board members. She specifically asked for input, wasn't allowed. You got to realize that
Matt,
this is new.
I have to correct you there. That ballot was a little bit like the horse designed by a committee that becomes a camel. While I did the original draft, it was modified multiple times. And other than Michelle, I don't think I had anything in writing from you, but you and I talked on the phone.
I said I was against the ballot.
The other,
and there was other input.
Yes, there was other input, yes.
So, let's skip all that for a second and just, well, we can beat it till like to death, but let's go straight to the legality of what we're talking about. When we talk about risk, and you guys love talking about, or the side for this loves talking about, potential liability. Let's talk about what the real potential liability is. We decided to just make up some stuff willy-nilly as we went along that is not in accordance with our bylaws and how rules are made. As much as you want to like this ballot, you want to like this vote, it wouldn't hold any water legally. Zero. Because it's not in, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. The previous board. Thank you. It was the previous board. But we didn't do it. Legality. We're making up the rules as we go. This board didn't send the ballot out. Had the ballot idea been brought up to me, I'd say, what do our bylaws say about this? Well, it really says the only thing we vote on is 15% or more spend on CapEx. Then I would have said, then why are we sending out a ballot? Because no matter what the results are that come back, one side or the other can fight it legally and they're going to win. So we decided that we're going to take this ballot. The ballot's poorly written. It's not reflective of the issue, but regardless of that, okay, so it comes back. What happens when a class action lawsuit gets filed against us now for loss of property rights? You don't think that's possible? I read it myself. 21 people, 21 families. There's a class action lawsuit just teed up, ready to go. Okay, why? Because we're taking their property rights away. John, you say that, or whoever said that, bring it. That sounds cool, but it's not. Because it's not in accordance to the bylaws. Okay, so then we lose, and we've spent tens of thousands of dollars. And this is why I researched it, because I'm trying to protect my property rights. I live on the lake. Don't you think I'm concerned about erosion and damage? But I wanted to look at my property rights. What are my property rights? Well, if more than half this community were to vote, but they haven't, one way or the other, then at least it's in accordance with the statutes of the state of Indiana, and so legally there's some ground to stand on, because maybe our bylaws aren't written in accordance with the statutes in Indiana. I've researched that too. So you're walking into a landmine and you don't even know.
I still stand with the right to.
I thank you for your opinion.
Yeah.
But by putting a compromise in place, we can set this aside. It's a compromise. We're taking away people's rights to use their boat as they bought it 12 hours a weekend in the busiest time.
If they don't want to do it, then anyway.
John, we're still taking it away. I'm still telling people that they can't. We're telling people they can't go do it anymore. You're taking away rights.
We're for this. What happened?
Guys, let's. The point is that this is more nuanced than you think. This is no longer Little House on the Prairie. It's not 1970. These people know they have rights, and they're going to enforce it. The ballot should have never went out.
Okay, let me go a step backwards then. You all never had the right to wake surf because of that bylaw is released.
It's a subjective language.
All right, well, but just that one comment, we've set the precedent that we allow it, and we've allowed it for 20 years because nobody has enforced it. So again, I don't wake surf, I don't have a wake surf boat. Don't care about that. The one thing was, I was elected. Say what it is, apparently it was the majority of the 400 votes people that did it, but I was elected, I wasn't appointed. The end for me is you don't take something away from anybody if you don't try something in the middle. All right, it's one season to see if it does better. Maybe it does, and people find the good out of it. Maybe it doesn't, and we re-review it and say, okay, it's still a problem. Can we do a little more? Who is it affecting? Can we verify the damage or the complaints that are coming? Can they report them live as they're happening? But I'm not going to turn around. I'm on the lake easily as much as anybody else and more than the vast majority of the people, minus this particular summer because of my son. And those boats are not an issue with boating on this lake. Okay? I do it all the time in a very slow pontoon boat. It gets rocked like every other boat in the world does. It's just a wave. It's just water. You drive, you steer into it. It's gone in literally a second.
second half.
You
But
just saw.
I'm going to give everybody a chance before I go straight to just no more, especially that people have been doing it for 20 years. My neighbor grew up on this lake. She's 37 years old with her husband. They've taught their kids to wake surf, but she learned on this. Her father built the house right across the way.
He didn't learn a wake boat, you learned how to ski boat.
That is true, but that's continued. It's continued to roll and change, and nobody has enforced it at all.
One time, this guy looked at a wake boat on this lake at one time.
Correct, and then once there was, nobody enforced it.
Name any other lake that allows this size.
Every one of our sister lakes would be the only one.
I'm just gonna look at our own lake and what we got going on. Let's just look at that. It's not the
Same thing, Lorelei, went all.
Also, hold on, about the ballot. It was poorly written, period, and at minimum.
Actually, I agree with you on that.
At minimum, and also, forget the verbiage too, it should have had an option for people that want no change. I want nothing, I want to ban it, I would like to try a compromise. Let's give people the opportunity. I know a lot of people wrote notes. And nobody, as far as I know, none of those notes were taken into account at all. And I believe those notes would have proven that that was a poorly written ballot, and it never should have gone out in the first place. I wasn't a part of it, but it should not have been sent out to the period.
If it's a 1-year trial, why did it say that in your proposed bylaws?
Because you don't put timelines in your bylaws like that. You don't put dates, but it's been recorded. It's been in the minutes. It's been discussed. It's so public. There's no way to back down that we're going to re-review it. Okay. But you don't put in a bylaw where you have to go remove something next year and rewrite it.
So will we be revisiting this issue
Yes.
next year?
Tom, I got kids and I have like property. I don't want any damage. I don't want anybody hurt.
Yes, it was fine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, artificial lake.
What?
The artificial lake, the law, the rule against using artificial lake on a boat.
Yeah.
Like ladders or trim pads, we gotta use on the lake, that's.
That goes back to the devices creating dangerous wave. It's subjective and you can't enforce it. So what we're trying to do is just remove it, all of it, during the periods of time when the lake is busiest. That just makes sense.
So there's no way for us to properly enforce that. You can't board their boat. You can't verify if they have it.
You can wake surf.
You can wake surf with any type of boat. You just plow some water. You can easily. There's plenty of boats out there.
There's pontoons you can surf behind now.
Old ski boats that make no ballast or nothing, designed not to make a wake, and they're able to wake surf behind that too.
Please continue, but we have to start to move on. You've been there for 25 minutes.
I always say that no means no. We had a majority vote.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Next. We gotta get through this. We're not here at 10 o'clock. You can get in line, please. Yeah.
Jeff Bittner, 1899. Jeff Bittner, 1899. There's been a lot of talk about fiduciary duties, responsibilities. And I want to just kind of cover a few things on that level. According to Beth Ross, Juris Doctor at UCLA School of Law, a board member's duties fall under 3 basic components: the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty to act within the scope of its authority. It is my opinion that a certain number of members of this board of directors knowingly and willfully breached their fiduciary responsibilities to members of Hidden Valley Lake Property Owners Association. It is a breach of the duty of loyalty when a board member puts their own self-interest above those of the community they represent. This is evidenced by the overturning of the lawfully executed vow that would have eliminated wake surfing and the use of wave-enhancing devices. People spoke through a ballot initiative. This board overruled the vote of the people. In addition, the board president and chair of the meeting, as the next agenda item, created a new motion to change the bylaws to allow them to use his wake boat in an almost completely unrestricted fashion. This motion should have been made by another board member, and he should have recused himself because of his conflict of interest. In my opinion, this is another crystal clear violation of the fiduciary duty of loyalty by this board member. The results of these breaches could be very costly to the individuals that perform them. I would imagine the POA's board directors and officers insurance policy has exclusions for covering intentional breaches of fiduciary duties. This could make those board members personally liable for injuries and property damage that are created by their actions. that one comment you made about the 15% was in the articles of corporation, wasn't in the bylaws I read today. It is, it's duplicated, but it is in the articles. And that was a recent change. Okay. And that's pretty much all I got.
Thank you.
I'm built about 114. I built my house in 1992 as part of the ski club with Eric and Becky. Good to see you guys. Love the lake. I've been here, like I said, 32 years or so. And part of me as a civic club president is to really create some type of bond and friendship and enjoy each other's company. And I think we're losing it here right now. It's okay to disagree, but when it comes to a point in time when we have a president that wants to sue his way into getting what he wants versus listening to the vote of the community. I won't get into all the numbers, but that's what it feels like. I don't like the sound of that. I think it's a huge loss for Hidden Valley to find somebody that's trying to basically bully his way and ignore the voice of the community. That's my main point. But here's a solution space for us. How about if we redo the survey? Well, wait a minute, before we redo it, what do you think would happen if the vote was, in fact, to allow wake surfing?
Yeah.
It was already there.
Oh, we have a referendum.
What if it was, and what would the people that didn't want it, what would they do? They'd probably sit down and say, the community wanted it, so we'll go with it. How many would raise their hand to that? That's my point, is we want people to be the majority rule, since when
It's already allowed.
So I propose to have a survey or a ballot, I get those confused, that's properly written, and we accept the results of that new ballot.
Yes.
That's my proposal. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Nothing wrong with that.
Along with the new ballot, you can do it is and explain to everybody in the valley what they're doing. Those strategies that they.
Can I ask the question? But I asked the question. Oh, Richard, Mr. Gann.
I'm sorry. Could you speak
Rich,
up?
how close are we to being able to vote electronically? In other words, to have an election without the expense and time of postage and stamps?
We just wanted, we're not talking about that. And we can do it. We can do it. We're going to be a very protected vote. You couldn't vote twice. You have to put your button on the ring. You have to make sure that.
The answer, Pat, is we're close, but it's not quite there yet.
He just said it.
Close. We're close, but we're not able yet to do it.
In the state of Indiana, to do online voting on POS.
It's not.
That's the staff is telling us. We have to verify it, but I don't have the reason.
And I've also looked into some third-party vendors that do it. They have a rate that is acceptable by total third party, and they would offer multiple forms of people to turn in their ballot.
So we'd have to look at it. We'd have to look at it right now. If it's against Indiana state law.
It is something we're actively working.
Yes, Chris is taking that as an initiative so that we can handle things like this expeditiously. Any other questions, Pat?
No, thank you. Sorry.
Bill Heights, lot 2730. I'm kind of unprepared for this, but the thought occurred to me that I believe we're living in a community of responsible people, and we all feel that if somebody creates a liability, the person who creates the liability should be the person responsible for remedying the liability created. And with that in mind, since we already have permits for every kind of craft on that lake, clear down to kayaks, I think it would be only reasonable to create a special permit for anybody who has a boat that is especially equipped for creating large waves, and also permits for the wakeboards themselves. And with the appropriate assessment for the charge of for those permits, we could then put together some funds that when people have liabilities created with damage to their docks, to their boats, and so on from the waves making them rub together, and we just know that that kind of damage is inevitable. We could have a fund there to kind of compensate them if they turn in a claim that can be verified and assess those funds to help cover their expenses for the damages. That's if you insist on going forward with wakeboarding.
Well, we've been going forward with wakeboarding for 25, 30 years. And wake surfing for equally as long. And there have been wake creating boats on this lake since the early 1990s. So what you just said there is difficult to process because it was so inaccurate in so many different ways. But if you're looking for like maybe and like a fee to put a sticker on a surfboard or something like that, I think maybe we could entertain that. It's not too much different than a paddleboard. But if someone damages your property right now, if someone drives their car into your car, if someone drives their boat into your dock, or if you have video of somebody driving by your dock and a wave damages your property, then you would sue that person individually.
It's a cumulative.
You would sue, and it's impossible to differentiate a 26 tri-tune with 300 horsepower motor who's traveling at the buoy. It's impossible for you to figure out whether 32 passes by that boat was more damaging to your dock than one pass by a surf boat.
I agree. That's why I say it's a cumulative. All of the wake surfing adds to the damage.
The wakes in general.
You had us watch that video.
Yeah. Of a surf boat.
Creating a wave.
Yeah.
And the boat was taking the photograph.
Me.
It was heaving up and down.
Right. That was my cell phone.
That boat was right up against the dock.
That's why we have
And the dock's a floating dock. And
there's a
down the
buffer zone right now of 150, and we're increasing that to 200.
The simple fact of the matter is it is a cumulative damage. No one person is doing it, but if you create a fund that when people, and I know that I've heard people complaining before about damaging wakes causing damage to their docks and their boats. If you could just
we'll consider it. Thank you.
We could add fishing licenses.
We could add fishing licenses for non-residents or fishing.
Tournament fees.
Tournament fees could be increased as well. Next, please. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Parrish, lot 1068, and a lot of great ideas here. Sorry. Jeff Barrett, 1068, been on the lake 11 years, lived right on the water. A lot of great ideas put out here. Sucks being you guys. I feel for you. Thank you for taking this on. But I just want to say that, when they put the first motorboat on Hidden Valley Lake, we had erosion, we had hazards, we had all that. Board of directors, they mitigated those. They mitigated it down to acceptable level. The lake people, the people on the lake, they put in riprap, they put in seawalls to take care of the erosion. The bylaws were written to prevent the safety hazards that were presented by motorized craft. Wake surfing came along. We should do the same with that. We should mitigate it down to an acceptable level. There are hazards, there are erosions. Anytime you move in this lake, there's going to be. So I'd just like to see us try to mitigate it. We can always evolve it another day, but let's mitigate this down to an acceptable level. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
What do we do about the
Hi, my name is Linda Schroeder. I'm a lot 2355. You can't hear me? Oh, well, okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I am fairly new to Hidden Valley Lake. I've only lived here since 2021. But I have lived on the lake for 58 years. And I have lived on the main part of the lake for 58 years. And this was Lake Santee in Greensburg, Indiana. Now, just before I moved from Greensburg, we had this problem. Now, I don't call it a problem. we had this same issue. And the key word was compromise. We compromised with the people that had those votes. We discussed the problems and the benefits. And many of you don't look at it as any benefit at all. But I wanted to tell you what I think is the benefit. First of all, Santee, my husband was president of the board for Lake Santee for a few years. And he always would try to compromise with things, even if he didn't agree with it. He would try to find a compromise for the benefit of the community and for the people that needed the compromise. Now, many things in the lake and on the lake can cause erosion. Believe you me, I had 800 feet of water, so I know about it. I'm not a stranger to it. We ripraped around the peninsula that we had several times. Now, that didn't eliminate us from ourselves wanting to have a speedboat and other water toys. My husband always advocated for what was best for the lake, what was best for the people, and what was best for the youth. Many times, people did not agree with things that youth wanted to do. I remember youth wanted to have a ski run. Oh my goodness, you would have thought they'd ask for the world. So my husband, he came up with a compromise, put it before the board, and gave them 2 days a week in the mornings during the week when they could put up their ski run. So enjoyment was had by the youth, compromise was had by the other people in the lake, and people lived happily with that. You can't always dictate that it always has to be your way. You have to compromise. And you must realize youth is the future of any place. It's the future of churches. It's the future of lakes. It's the future. And you have to let youth enjoy things that they like to do. Just because you don't know it, you're not educated with it, and you haven't tried it, doesn't give you the right to say you can't do it. In my opinion, you have to realize, do not drive youth away from this lake. Do not do that. Because if you do, they will not come back. They will say, they won't bring their families and their young children. They'll say, we can't come to this lake because they won't let us do things we want to do. They didn't compromise. They won't give us a chance. You have to think ahead. You can't think about the moment. You can't think just because you like to fish, you like to ski, you like to pontoon, you like to boat. Well, they like to surf. Like I said, Lake Santee is the same size as this lake.
No, it's not. In fact, that's a point that we need to make. This lake actually has a usable area that's 50% greater than Lake Santee.
As a whole, Lake Santee has about 20 more acres than this lake.
100.
No, that's not right. That's not correct.
John, we measured their highway area.
What's the total area of the lake? It's not 50. I mean,
It's total area of the lake. Would it matter if it was 10 feet wide and 2,000 feet long? Then total area of the lake would still be larger.
But let me.
John, our skiable area is 50% larger than Lake Santee.
Let them speak.
Now, I will say, using surf boats, I have ridden in them. And I'll bet lots of you haven't. I have. I've ridden in many kinds of boats. Ski nautiques, rowboats, anything, I've ridden in. And I'll tell you, if it has a motor on it, it's going to cause a wave. Now, there's different sizes of wakes, but everything causes wakes. And some of the people here, I'll bet, and I don't know, because I'm new to this lake, but I'll bet some of the people here that are complaining the most about they think the wakes are damaging their property, I bet a lot of them don't have their property protected with a seawall. I don't know that. But I know that the people at Lake Santee that have problems with their frontage was because they didn't protect it. So think about that. And think about whether you want to drive the youth away from here. Look at the age of the people in this audience. It's not full of youth.
Thank you. Thank you.
My first time, at, public meetings ever speaking. I wavered as to whether I was going to talk or not, or to say anything. My name is Martin Wickler. I'm lot 1988, 89, and 90. Being my wife, because I would not know. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised at this meeting. I look around and I can see by your dress, by your mannerisms, by your general speech, that you are an educated group, and that you are, many people are in this community are quite successful. And I think we've fallen back to the times, the political times that we have now, where we become alienated and opinionated and non-cooperative with one another. This country is built on compromise. I think when you look around and you see the pointed discussions that I've heard, the personal attacks that I've heard, the fabrication of truths that I've heard, I'm a little ashamed. I think as a group here that we can reach some type of compromise. I think an attempt has been made to reach a compromise. Am I happy with it? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't have property on the lake property, so I can't verify whether this has happened. I have been on the lake and seen what you know, a wakeboard can do and amount of wake it can generate. I think the compromise that they came to as far as the weekends and some of the other times, the holidays, I think they make sense on a safety perspective. I think that if you have property and you have acquired some damage due to wake, you know, an unnecessary wake, you do have a means of recouping any losses that you've done. You can use maritime law, you can use, you know, civil law, both of which say that you are, as a boat operator, responsible for your wake and any damages that it causes. And maritime law is going to supersede all the law. Indiana law is going to supersede state law. Is the number one law that you go to. I think the compromise that you have now, the way it sits, I think you can live with it for a year. However, I think that this committee, I think this group needs to really go back. I think we need to go. This is a place where a majority has generally ruled. I think that, you know, we come from a democracy. I think we need to readdress the vote. You know, we've made mistakes in our own constitution, and we've had, you know, repeal amendments on our constitution. I do not see it as a new premise that we might revisit this, you know, in another time. But I think the one thing we need to do is we need to not lose the sense of community that I
was very, very happy to see when I first came here 7 years ago. And I'm beginning to feel like we're getting so polarized in our political views, in our day-to-day views, that we are not allowing ourselves to think with our brain. We're thinking, you know, with our compassion. And I think sometimes we need to back up and we need to think with our brain. Now, do I think people will all handle it very well? Personally, I don't think so. I think we need to back up, take a look at this, you know, live with the compromise that's been proposed for a year, and then come back and revisit it, but revisit it with cooler minds and, you know, a little bit of just common sense. And I believe the lady before that talked about taking youth out of this, you know, lake in this community. It's important that we keep them here. You know, as a middle school teacher for over 20 years, all I can see is we keep restricting our youth more and more and more. We keep putting more and more rules on them, more and more obligations. And I think that we have to understand that as we get older, I don't want to be bounced around in my pontoon, but if I'm 19 years old, I want to be bounced around in my pontoon. And I think we have to understand that there has to be a compromise someplace along the line. And I, you know, I have a pontoon, I have another boat. I think some of the things that we've said about, well, I own this and you're taking away my value. You know, I owned a boat that had 250 horsepower on it. I would not expect to be able to go out on this lake and do the 98 or to 100 miles an hour as capable of doing on boat. It's not safe. But I think we have to revisit all of this. And I think we have to do it with cooler minds. And, you know, if it takes setting up a committee, Matt, to do it, to come to the board, to address it, I think you need to look at it in a way. I know you have your lake committee, but I think that's something that we need to all do. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Mick Barr, 1680 is my lot. You know, so talk a little bit about compromise. And in a compromise, nobody wins, nobody loses, and you don't win all the way, you don't lose all the way, right? I mean, we lived at Lake Santee for a number of years before we came on. So, or not Lake Santee, but or North Lake, okay, North Lake. And the community got sideways, right? The community got sideways, and in the last 5 years at Deerfield, over $1 million has been spent between the homeowners and people who disagreed with them about certain things. $1 million, and they're not done with that. It's been going on for 5 years, okay? I would just want you guys to think about what you gain by trying to eliminate this activity, because the boat, you don't eliminate the boats, right? You don't eliminate the boats. You don't eliminate the wakes, because the boats are allowed on the water. So if the same picture that we just saw, okay, wake surfing or surfing, right? If they had a rope on that person, that boat would be allowed on this way. Everything okay? You're not surfing, but you're on a wakeboard behind the same boat, behind the same wave. Okay, I think this whole thing is crazy. I mean, living on a big lake, seeing waves all the time, and the amount of effort and time and stuff that's going on right now, this is really crazy. People who are surfing seem to be willing to, all right, we'll change what we're doing some and give everybody a chance to, you need a calm lake for a while. This lake, I live on a lake, and this lake, over 200 days a year, there's not a boat on this one. Over 200 days. And you want to talk about, well, my kayak is rocking a little bit. Don't go out on the lake when there's a lot of boats. You know, don't go out there. You got 200 other days to go out on your kayak and go all over that lake. All right. We got people say, oh, there's waves that are coming up on the beach, and my little kid be washed away. come on. Get your kid out of the water if it's a busy day, because use a little common sense. I mean, use a little common sense. This whole thing is crazy to me. I've started listening to the comments about people saying, oh, this waves are coming over my dock. I'm saying, how the hell is a wave coming over a dock? I mean, if it is, I would like to see it, because there's not a boat on this lake unless it goes 5 feet from your dock, it's going to put a wave over the top of your dock. And I'm telling you, I voted for, well, a long time. I'm a long time. And if people in this community say that my property is being damaged by waves that are coming from the boats, then fix your property. Put a more riprap there. Make sure that your docks are going to get damaged every once in a while. They don't last forever. They will not last forever. Every 10, 12 years, you're going to have to do something. Your riprap's going to have to be put back down. Your seawalls are going to have to be fixed. You live on a damn lake, all right? Accept the fact you live on a lake. Tell me that 100 big waves is worse than 1,000 middle-sized waves. And God, I would like to see that too. So listen, compromise, and not only compromise, make it unanimous, because it'll stop all the bullshit. It'll stop all the bullshit. Make it unanimous and do your job. You do have a job, and that's to protect this community from stupid lawsuits that will come. They will come, just like they did in Clearfield. $1 million worth of money wasted from both sides, and nobody has won yet. So I would ask you, vote unanimously, and cut all the bullshit out, because this community doesn't need it. Friends used to be friends are no longer friends down here because of the same type of thing. People don't get along anymore because of stupid stuff. And I can tell you, this community doesn't need it. We've seen it. This community doesn't need it. We repair some of the damage that's been done as far as personally, no more attacks, quit all the crazy stuff. I've never seen anything like it in my life over waves on a lake.
Al Hewitson, 1604. We've talked about waves, the intensity of waves. What I've never heard anybody speak of is a type of seawalls that we approve. Anybody that's ever spent any time on this lake knows that when you're by a vertical seawall, the wave hits the wall and it comes back out at almost the same intensity that it's going in. The ones with the angled shores with the riprap absorb a lot of the waves. We saw it on the dam report. The angled dam with the riprap or whatever the other term was. There's a reason the Army Corps of Engineers requires it. It absorbs the waves. And we've never looked at the type of seawalls that we approved this way.
Thank you.
I'm Robert Price, 395. I just want to say that I helped that spring do repairs on a friend of mine's deck and boat lift. They live on the main part of the lake. And I did help them do the repairs. And that was caused by boating activity. You can't name anyone boat and say that's the guy that did it, because of all the boats that are out there. It's a cumulative action, just like our fluctuations. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Crock, 1573 to 74. Michelle, I heard your reasons earlier for supporting wave surfing on our small lakes. But when you were liaison for architecture, you told the committee members that you own, your family owns Trinity Homes Incorporated, and that in fact you just sold a house on Alpine Drive. If you vote in favor of the proposal to remove section 7, 10, 12 of the bylaw that prohibits damaging or dangerous wake on the lake, you'll in essence be voting to allow damaging or dangerous wake on our small lake. Since most other small communities in India prohibit wake surfing because it creates turbulence, the opportunity to offer the activity of wake surfing to potential clients would be beneficial to your family real estate business. Therefore, I just suggest that you abstain from this vote on the grounds that it's a conflict of interest.
Wow.
Thank you.
Cheers.
What's that?
There we go. So you have the screen that you threatened to show.
John,
I mean, I'm just asking, do you or not?
we have that teed up. If you were gonna say to the community that you didn't support a compromise, I was gonna say that you did. But there's no reason to get into that. Just
No, I just asked, because you said
yeah,
you're going to,
yeah.
so I just wanted to ask.
No, I didn't say I was going to. I said maybe we need to have that teed up.
Right.
Yeah, I got teed up.
I
But Rich has a
mean,
copy. of it.
I'll address it too. So I had better notes in order that I spent from 12:30 a.m. until 5 a.m. This morning in the emergency room with my wife. So, and my notes were at work, so I'm having a big memory.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I think she's okay. So I had better notes and in a better order. But then I had to talk to them. I guess to address the compromise talks that I had, there was two of us that we did not meet on behalf of the Lakes Committee. Met with Matt and another individual, and we talked about compromise. This has been 3 months ago, 4 months ago. That was done. I mean, I was threatened to be sued. The POA was threatened to be sued. We don't have the money to be sued. So there was some concern about me, my rear end being sued, trying to salvage that, and in watching out for the POA itself financially. So I did meet. We did talk about a compromise. That nothing come of that with the board. So that's where that was. As far as the details, kind of irrelevant as far as the board didn't to do anything with that. Before I forget, I think Dave Patterson brought up an excellent point. I mean, he was appointed interim or wanted to be appointed interim by the board, you know, to the Lakes Committee chairman. He suggested that since this was not brought to the Lakes Committee at all and talked to, that it'd be a good idea to bring it to the Lakes Committee to talk about. There might be other ideas and suggestions that aren't part of this that I think would be a good idea to talk about.
Can I address that?
Well, no, let me finish because you let other people finish without interrupting. I think so.
That's why I asked you.
Okay, thanks. But I think that it could be beneficial because I know there's a couple other people on the Lakes Committee that have talked about working with some modifications, some suggestions on there that I think would be beneficial, and it certainly would calm, I think, the community to know that the Lakes Committee has some input on it rather than none at all. Everyone knows how I feel as far as I just don't think it's appropriate on our lake. I think there's a number of reasons. I don't think it's a true compromise. One gentleman talked about a compromise as far as that's when both sides give up something of value, both sides walk away and they're unhappy. I don't, the wake surfing community readily admits that the worst time to wake surf is when there's a lot of boats out there and it's choppy. That's the worst time to wake surf. They also admit that that's the noon to 6 time slot. So if you're giving up the worst time to wake surf, you're really not giving up anything. I mean, that's so
So how is that a true compromise? What I had suggested recently, with a couple of board members that I talked to, I'm gonna get blasted on this because I'm a fisherman and I get vilified because I'm a fisherman. But I think there should be, and in the original proposal by the task force, it did talk about consideration for the fishing tournaments. In the final proposal, there was none. Most of those fishing tournaments are done at noon. I think that if we look at not wake surfing until noon on the days of those tournaments, may be fair, that's a compromise. On the seniors, they fish on Wednesdays. They're usually done by 2. I don't want wake surfing at all, but I'm looking at a compromise, okay? Let's look at a compromise. So why not give some consideration, as was suggested by the task force initially, but then was not as part of the proposal. I have a lot of issue with that. We're talking noon. That's 3 hours on those days. On the seniors, those are on Wednesdays. That's till maybe 2. So, and to take a look at this a year down the road, why do that? I mean, why not go to the Lakes Committee, talk about it, table it until then. Let me finish, please. And why ram this through right now without any input from the Lakes Committee? And no, I'm not that's a rhetorical question. Not looking for an answer right now, okay? I think that would only be fair to give that consideration to the Lakes Committee and talk about that. Noon on those days, 1 or 2 whenever the seniors are on Wednesdays, which are still votes out there. Some people I talked to also talked about after 6 on Saturdays and Sundays. Let that kind of be some quiet time, quiet as possible. It's not be quiet. That allows it from 9 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday, just not after 6. I think that's more of a compromise. If we're going to look to involve as many people as possible, any compromise to where both sides give up something, that's giving up a few hours of an evening on Saturday and Sunday, but that is also gaining those 6 hours of noon to 6. Like I said, I don't like it, but that's a compromise. If it was up to me, I'd go with my whole studies that don't support it, study that's being used. That you say says 200 feet from shore. The next 2 sentences go on to say, with the exception being a deep lake, and then that's 300 feet from shore. That seems to be left out of the conversation. We are a deep lake. That's part of the argument that's been made for a long time by Matt is we are a deep lake. And we are. The one study that is pointed to that is said 200 feet, actually says 300 feet on a deep lake. That seems to be left out of the conversation. We talked about the liability issue. We don't have to. So
it's a personal liability issue. There's civil. There's ways on you feel like you've been home.
Yeah, I know you can't prove that one single way did that. That would be very difficult to do that. I contacted 2 members of the task force. One I never even talked to before. I don't think I could pick him out of the line. I didn't know what kind of answer I was going to get when I asked him what was the nature. You know, I guess if he knew what was being proposed, it's the same thing as what the task force proposed. He did. He didn't agree with it. The direct quote was, he said our lake was too damn small. That I said, I could go into all the reasons why I think it's not appropriate. Heard it before, some people haven't. If you haven't, I'd be happy to share it with you. I've done so much research on this in 3.5 years. I would just implore you to table this for now. There's no reason to push this thing through. There's just no reason. This was presented at the last board meeting with absolutely no notice to the Lakes Committee. None. 0. Without any input. None. Like, hey, we're thinking we're going to do this. What do you guys think? Is there any suggestions? Because let me finish, please. If you would have, and you didn't like what you heard, you still could be doing what you're doing. I mean, you could still do that. but you could have at least given the courtesy to the Lakes Committee after 3.5 years. And there's reasons why it wasn't done, and we could argue that, and there's no sense in arguing that as far as why it wasn't done, point fingers all over the place. Bottom line, it wasn't done. Right, that's right, Michelle, and it could have been from the previous board president, it could have been how he was manipulating the committee, how he wouldn't let it be brought up. Those are facts, but we are where we are. You know, we can point fingers wherever. But it wasn't brought to this current committee that has half of those membership have turned over. I mean, that's turned over. So there's new ideas and suggestions, and actually a couple of those were at your house. So let me finish. You didn't interrupt the ones pro wake surfing, so please let me finish. You didn't interrupt them. I would just ask you to table it for now. Dave Patterson, who you supported unanimously as the chairman of the Lakes Committee, been here around a long time, well respected, no sense. He just asked for an opportunity for the Lakes Committee to talk about it and asked for you to table it. What the heck is 1 month, or even if it's 2, that it hasn't been pushed right now? There's no reason to do it and then revisit it. It's really hard to do something once the toothpaste is out of the tube. And you can shake your head back, and that's not fair. You didn't do it to the ones that were up here that were pro, whatever you want to talk about. Rich, I asked Rich to show. I asked Rich to show a video because you showed
a marketing promotional video.
No, listen to me. This is a 20-foot wake surfing boat. This is a 20-foot wake surfing boat. You showed your video. That is a 20-foot boat. Michelle, you can laugh and look at it. Is that what you want on our video? Sure it is. It's a 20-foot boat.
What's dangerous about that? I think that's awesome. That's not dangerous.
Oh my God.
That's not dangerous to me.
Oh, shit.
What's dangerous about it, John? Come on, let's have that debate.
Can I just say one thing about your timeline? Rich, can you turn off? Just pause it. Or at least
you got to show yours.
Sorry.
But we've actually, you guys have shown them before. Just about your timeline. If we vote this tonight, it puts some type of compromise out there to start the process. If we send it away as it is, we're already halfway through the summer, okay? By the time we go through the process, it's not gonna make it even to experience anything this year.
It's just gonna go for this year.
Because it removes boats that are causing weight from the lake between noon and 6.
And it may do nothing for us to do. Now, I will admit, the ideal time to surf is on a super flat lake, right? Nobody out there, choppy times not. But there are multiple boats, especially with their younger family members that don't care. They're gonna go out there, and they do go out there during those hours. And it does create a larger wake than some of the other boats out there doing this thing, and they go in circles. I get it. So by the compromise, it takes them out of that equation during the busiest hours when the majority of the people are on the lake. I don't see why I don't see why the Lakes Committee cannot still review this and come up with a plan that they can present.
Dave, the tactics of 787 being removed and 792 being removed, I think that's where you're like, wait a minute, they're not removed. They were removed in 2018. The only thing we said was we can't use documentation as proof of link. We have to measure a vote. And then 792 is redundant because the clause above it already addresses that. So the only change is the clarification on hours and the compromise, and then taking out the subjectivity out of the dangerous weight and just stating you can't do this activity during these times, which makes it easily enforceable. As far as the Lake Committee not seeing this, it is 90% of what the Highway Task Force provided you in 2021 that you voted to not allow the board to see. And you haven't had that much turnover.
We didn't vote for the board to not allow the board to see it. That's not how it works.
Well, they didn't see it.
That's because that's the process of every committee. Okay,
which gets back to the fiduciary responsibility to represent.
Let's not go there for you on fiduciary responsibility. Or count, that's the pop.
And I got one more question. When it comes to a compromise is
this is going to turn ugly. I don't understand. Dave had his hand raised. Yeah, let's see what Dave has to say.
What I saw in the brief rundown was a lot of sub paragraphs of the bylaws being changed and some omitted. And I'd just like to go back through and look at it.
It's just not true, Dave. It's not.
Well, let's bring it to the committee and let us see that.
By not voting tonight, you're not gonna stop wake surfing on the lake, you're still doing it anyway.
Of course.
So what would be, you know, how does that change?
Because we want to remove the boats from the lake between noon and 6 on weekends, so if we can evaluate
It actually helps.
if it actually helps.
You know,
And the trial period means that there's still input, there's still opportunity to change. I supported not having this activity for senior fishing tournaments when I was in the room. I have a question for you when it comes to compromise. That's a give and take. Are we gonna not allow fishing boats on this lake during certain hours so that people can wake surf and wakeboard?
Those tournaments, no.
I'm asking. Us removing a certain activity while primarily pontoon pleasure boaters and fishermen use the lake as they please. So where was the compromise?
Exactly, where is it?
It's us just giving away at the time where it might be convenient. John,
you admit that.
This lake was empty from noon to 2 Saturday. Empty.
I'm giving you that with that compromise. You can do it from 9 to 6. I mean, see, that's, and you're not even.
So what days are you not gonna fish?
You're not acknowledging.
What days are you not gonna fish?
Red herring. Fishing doesn't interfere with anything.
Says you. Says you.
How does it?
It's a boat on the water.
What?
It's a boat on the water. And lures, and I don't have a trampoline this year because of 3 holes in it from fishermen. John, you only see it one way and you always have. That's why we're here.
You're ignoring the Lakes Committee's chairman request that you appointed, we seconded or had that suggestion. You're ignoring that and not even letting the Lakes Committee do its work. You are independently violating your fiduciary duty to the community, which is
that is not true.
You have a personal interest on this. You are an avid wake surfer. That was directly in the letter from your attorney to me. You are an avid wake surfer. Tell me this isn't a violation of fiduciary duty.
It's not a violation of fiduciary responsibility, John.
Just like
because it's allowed now.
But only because it's not enforced.
Just to be clear, you're arguing for no restrictions on wake surfing now. That's what you got.
Are you arguing for that?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
No, they're trying to.
You guys just said, let it go for the rest of the season. Let it be.
Reevaluate it. The lake shall have plenty of time to look at it over the next 3 months and give their recommendations to the liaison of how it can be changed.
Let the Lakes Committee do some work and bring it back to you.
Been inactive doing the work for a couple of years now. Had this, we do. In 2021, if you would have just done your job, then we wouldn't be here now.
You know Scott Giska would not allow that. You know that for a fact. So does anyone else that was involved in this. Knows that he would not let that be brought to the board. He stood up and said, do not bring it up.
This is why we're here, John.
Meeting. That's right, because he said, don't bring it up in the Lakes Committee meeting. The board doesn't want to hear it. I would ask other board members, and I was being told, we never said that.
I wasn't on the board then, John.
He was the liaison, and he wouldn't even let us talk about it. You know,
are you done?
Which we need more.
You are in direct violation of your duties.
That's it. Thank you for your opinion.
If the ballot would have gone your way, you would have hailed that.
It's allowed now.
Interrupt your people. If the ballot would have gone your way, you would have hailed that as a referendum wake surfing. If you think it was,
I wouldn't issue the ballot.
Do another one and accept the result.
I wouldn't have issued the ballot.
Accept the result.
I just told you.
Do another one, accept the result.
I just told you.
Do another one, accept the results. Don't force this down our throat with 3 people dictating to the entire community. And that's what you're doing.
You just tried doing that with the last board.
John, how long have you want your time?
Right, guys, how long are we gonna argue about this before a decision's just made and then we see how it works? Thank you.
Becky Raybell, lot 1795. Eric and I lived here on the lake for 37 years. And with his latest survey, it's very biased. First of all, it was not written by a third party. It was with the
title of it, Dangerous and Damaging Lakes. And this went out to everybody in the community. So all these people were voting from all over the community that don't even use the lake, don't live on the lake, and they have no concerns, but it's already biased, it's already put into their heads that these are dangerous and damaging lakes. So to be safe, you should vote against this rule. So first of all, that wasn't fair. And now, and then for the Lakes Committee is heavily influenced by fishermen. The survey was led by fishermen. And we've been attending all the Lakes Committee meetings for the past several months. People have left. We know more people that want to get on. They've attended the necessary meetings. They've given input, which was appropriate. Lakes Committee said that they would let people, after they attended the number of meetings, they would apply to get on. Well, the last Lakes Committee meeting, there were people sitting there that wanted to apply, and the fishermen on the Lakes Committee made up. They didn't have answers, but they didn't have the applications to let them apply. And now they're still putting out with the happenings every week now that they want more people to apply. Some of these new people that want to be on are lake surfers, and it seems to me like the Lakes Committee should be represented by all people that use the lake. And as far as we see, it's led by fishermen. And another example was the no plowing rule. It was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Good word for it. Because on that, you could tell it was written by people that do not wake surf or do not do any sports activities. It said, and they were influencing the community vote again, saying that you needed to be safely on the plane within 20 seconds, making people think that you had to be on the plane for it to be a safe activity. Well, they were going to, if that could pass, then they were going to prohibit people teaching kids to ski, pulling skiers, pulling tubers. This was going to eliminate a whole lot of activities for a whole lot of families. And so that proves right there that the Lake Committee should be represented by people that do sports activities, water activities. Because that was very poorly written, and it was going to knock off a lot of activities for a lot of families. And so it just seems like the Lake Committee should have fair representation of people other than fishermen. And now it seems like the whole community has been influenced by dangerous and damaging waste, which now it's going to be hard for anybody. We've seen the raw data, and people that don't even live on the lake were voting against, or even use the lake. We're voting against wake surfing. How is that fair? They shouldn't have the influence to tell us that we have to, that our activities are going to be banned.
When I pay dues, I have a right to vote whether I use the lake or not.
That's right.
Yeah,
I don't want to be, you don't tell me I don't have a right to vote.
Thank you.
Influenced by the wording
Okay.
of that
Thank
word.
I think you made a good point. Thank you. And yes, you have the right to vote. I think we've concluded with the comment section. I want to make a motion to approve the bylaw allowing wake surfing second reading. Can I get a second? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Bob and Pat.
Correct.
3-2. We are going to try the trial for a while, and we will continue to take input.
I have a question.
No. I'm sorry. In the interest of keeping this moving,
Okay.
we got to keep going. Amy.
I'm up.
I was about to ask for the ranger. Okay. Before we start, are these anyone's lists? I just wanted. Did anyone leave them up here when they came to speak? Okay.
That's next bar. That would have been your bar.
Okay. Okay. Jade, I'll give these to you.
All right.
I'll take one. I'll take one.
All right. So, we have newsstand at the beach. Anyone that goes to the beach, you have a notice.
That's our maintenance guys. They're awesome. And look at that. We have a new slide. We have new mulch at all the playgrounds. That's awesome. That's a big deal. We also have new chairs ordered, so those will be coming in before the summer is over. I would also,
want to speak to this slide? Yes.
For the beach, and the pool,
for what?
Chairs.
the chairs,
Chairs, just the pool. Why? You think we should have chairs down at the beach?
lifeguard chair.
Oh, lifeguard chair is fine. It's good.
What chairs?
They're not going anywhere.
They don't even use it.
Well, I mean, whether that's the case or not, I mean, I think we
Lounge.
it's the lounge chairs from the pool. I mean, at this point, we're just trying to maintain all the amenities. We're not trying to get new amenities. We're, you know, we have a lot. It's just, you know, it takes a lot of money to do all this. So at any chance that we can get, that's the special needs swing. We got donations from clubs. I went and picked it up in Indy to save $300. So it might be a little bit to some people, but it all adds up, and that's what we're trying to kind of offset.
Well, the lifeguard thing goes away. One of our lifeguards got injured.
Yeah, I didn't know if I wanted to bring that up.
Is she okay? I don't know much about her.
Yeah,
Brock, it was Brock Berry, Matt Berry's son, today dove into the.
yeah, he dove out too far. No.
That was what the ambulance was.
The car.
No, he's talking about, yeah,
I don't
know if I should.
Yeah, it's a.
Yeah.
He did have an injury today though to a lifeguard.
Right, he's okay.
Yeah.
He just dove too far and.
But she's okay and.
Well,
Not.
Yeah, and I think
not
I just kind
critical.
of want to wait, you know, see how the family feels about that before I bring that in such stuff.
Sure.
So I'm gonna hang on to that. But this was Sarah's idea, to recognize the lifeguards. They get beat up all day long. I mean,
Pestered.
well, and some of the residents aren't nice, you know, and we have to remember that these are kids. There is actually a national shortage of lifeguards. We work to find retirees, you know, older people that want a lifeguard. If anybody has any interest in that, please let me know.
Nora and her team do such a great job.
They do. And I just want to kind of remind everybody that these are children and these are our children. And I know if it was my son that people were talking to him that way, we would probably got a problem.
So thank you for your help with this.
Yeah,
This is gonna go
they're
out.
awesome.
This is gonna go out in the happenings. Is this gonna go out in the happenings?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
All right, so
Yeah.
hang on. New slide, chairs. John Getzendanner and his team, Don and his wife, I mean, he's got numerous volunteers and they're awesome. Goldfinch and Cardinal are now connected and we are working on the Bluebird Trail because it was pretty rough. So it's gonna have some new configurations there. If anybody likes to go out and hike on the trails. Okay, all right, we're moving on. 2 minutes.
I'm Sarah Thompson. I'm here on behalf of the Children's Activity Committee, and I want to thank Pat and Rich and Dave and Amy. This will be our first collaboration with the Parks and Recs Committee. We would like to have a children's cardboard regatta. A lot of lake communities do this, campgrounds. We never have. It's a great exercise in STEM activities for our kids over the summer. Our plan is to do it on a Friday night during Brian's Beach Nights. We will charge $5 per entry. Still to be determined what those funds may be used for, possibly covering lifeguards, the board has an active budget for those, or possibly new playground equipment. What we will need is we will ask for volunteer kayakers in the water and also lake patrol. We will need maintenance due to additional garbage down at the beach. We will be providing hot dogs and water to all who attend, so I will be asking for somebody to help to grill hot dogs at the beach shelter. We will ask that parents be active participants and help ensure the safety of their children.
Life jackets required.
Life jackets will be required because obviously if your kid gets trapped in the cardboard, it's just a disaster. We want this to be so much fun, a spectacle. And then for the sake of the cleanliness of the lake, we will ask, amongst other rules, that a milk jug be tied to the boat so if it goes down, we can retrieve it safely.
The Hidden Valley Children's Activity Committee will be donating all the prizes for the different categories. We will have a family note category in addition to the most spectacular sinking. So we are looking forward to it if we can get approved for it.
And then I also want to bring up on that, this is gonna be inside the ropes, not outside the ropes.
From the beach to the ropes and back.
Different categories for ages, so therefore, you know, we'll know who's in the water. You know, it's not just gonna be just head on in, like, I wanna do the adult one.
We'll have people races.
Yeah, the adult one, we're gonna do that.
And Nora did give us the recommendation, nobody younger than the age of 4. So that was great advice from our expert Nora.
Yeah. So we are looking for approval from you guys. Do you have any questions?
I absolutely love it. I'm all on board. The timeline takes a fair bit of cardboard. Do you think that's too soon for people to
You just gotta have to hurry up. No, I'm kidding.
resource and create some creative things, or?
Do you suggest that we move it to a date in August?
I'm just thinking a little longer because
We're completely flexible.
I happen to work in a place that has unlimited amount of cardboard, so it's unfair for me to look at
I
this.
had a friend who just moved, so.
But for most people, it might be difficult to get enough material to do what they want. I mean,
of course, yeah.
They've done these in Florida where we're from since before I was born. And
well, they do it a year in advance, so you're working on. Well, the adult ones I know where I'm from is you're working on them for a year.
Yeah.
I think where Sarah was coming from was it's just cardboard, so it wouldn't take that long. It's not something you would have to store that long. Do all the parents want this in their home?
I'd say the date can be flexible. I think we still approve it.
Yeah, the date could be flexible. And the reason we did the 26th was because this was such a short notice that we had people that are renting the top shelter, and within that contract, we can't have an activity down there while they're doing that. So I think that just kind of leaves us on the Friday nights with Brian during that time. And I think there's all those kids down there, maybe we can bring them in.
Or we wing it this year and have floor planning for next year.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We are winging it. And then
I mean, I've been to the hayride. We do wing some things, not all.
Yeah, but so we're flexible on the time. I mean, if you guys think we should wait, I mean, obviously, if we wait longer, then it's going to be a.
What about school starting though?
Yeah, they will.
We'll start August 6th.
If you delay it till August, I can get something in the Beacon. I can write about it.
Well, and then that's what I want to bring up. I was talking to Sarah that should this be an HVL resident only until we see what we're doing. I don't think we should open it up to.
I wouldn't open it.
No.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So this would be HVL residents only. And then, so it is kind of a fundraiser deal. She mentioned $5. Of course, I was like, I did more, right? That's just $5. But so we need more playground equipment, and that's something we can try and offset for the cost of park and recs. If we do things like this, then we can try and, you know, I don't know what else we can do.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve it. Second.
You just think the date is too soon, Chris?
Yeah, it's just tight, but I mean, I'd still approve the activity, and we gotta work on the date.
The kids are back in school, so to do a Friday night after they're back in school is
yeah.
Let's go with the 26th.
Go with the 26th and get on the registration form this weekend, get everything created, and then I probably will send it to Rich to get on the list later.
Can I get a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. I had a goal of 2 minutes, but we went over. Thank you guys for being
guys.
Thank
you, Valerie.
We love you.
Stephanie, go home and go to bed. All right.
Got two things, safety and security. Second reading for our bylaw change. I know last month there was some suggestion on a couple of line items that we took a look at. We did make a change to the title of the exact section number. believe it's, 10-5-1. About the, alteration of vehicles, with mufflers and all that. We just changed some titling around and where it didn't change any substance in the actual bylaw. The other was, there was concern over a section that states, trucks over 7,000 pounds are prohibited with exception. We didn't address that specifically. What we're hoping is to get this bulk of the bylaws approved, the change approved, and we're going to continue to evaluate that because there's so many vehicles now outside of just commercial vehicles. Any 2500 series trucks are going to probably go over that 7,000 pound limit, as well as evaluation from an engineering standpoint. What can our roads handle? Where did this weight limitation come from? And then also, I guess, how are we going to enforce it? So to actually come up with a weight limitation right now, I don't think really does any justice for holding up the bulk of this bylaw change. So that's something we're going to continue to evaluate and bring something forward for that specific section down the road.
So, if it's not enforceable, again, a 3,500 dual is, 11,000 to 14,000 pounds.
Right.
That's just a regular vehicle. I mean,
right.
There's nothing in it. Would it not be better just to take that section out until we figure that out? Because essentially we're leaving something here that is gonna exclude a lot of people that currently live here. Right. Make it legal. The other section was the 10-5. The biggest problem I have with that is we have no way to monitor that or enforce that. I know we like to have it in, we can say, hey, don't modify things, but even when you put the decibel amount, unless we're out there with sound meters using that, then how do you prove it? I think we set ourselves up, because if it's something we're not capable of enforcing.
There was communication within our meeting of there being the ability to actually measure the level of sound if we needed to. But
are you thinking like somebody calls out a complaint of somebody, we then send a ranger to go check the audio of it, or we ask him to rev his motor?
What about motorcycles? Aren't motorcycles gonna be around that?
Pretty much all motorcycles.
We have like a bike.
All rock rockets and Harleys are gonna go.
Have to exclude all of them.
I think the thought was that completely remove, if you have something that is outside what we normally see, I mean, a Harley, I think we normally see that, but if you have something that is completely outside of, the norm and is ridiculous, we at least have something in place to be able to enforce that.
There are, yes, Al.
I'd like to just name off a few things that are over what they're saying that the allowable
decibel is.
A bandsaw, a chainsaw, a gas-powered hedge trimmer, a pressure washer, your riding lawnmower, they're all over the dB level that you're setting. So you're trying to say that a car passing by is going to cause more nervousness than a person cutting down a tree all day long?
I'm not saying that.
Well, sure you are.
Well,
No,
I think Dave, I think
saying
the intent is clear. Like you're trying to put something in the bylaws so that in case there is just something absolutely ridiculous. But to Chris's point, Dal's point, I think then you're setting yourself up for something that's not enforceable.
So what happens?
Is there an opportunity to remove 10-5-1 and remove 10-6-1 for now and pass the rest of your bylaw changes? So we can make a motion to approve with the removal of 10.5.1 and 10.6.1, and then the committee re-look at those things and come back with maybe language that's either enforceable or more in line with like on the weights of the vehicles?
I'd like to do that to get this done, but that would sort of be contrary to the way that we've traditionally done business within the committee. So
I would then encourage us to table this and ask you guys to review those two things until you come back with.
I think the decibel level thing is something that's in parallel with what's in statute in most communities across the board. That's not something that we just cooked up out of the blue. I think that's why that would be in place. And the same thing for modification of exhaust and things like that, you know. I think there's probably a good number of things that we could go through that would now somewhat be unenforceable. But I'm not sure that.
Would we be trying to stop or curtail non-residents just cutting through the community that are doing that same issue? Or are we only holding our community people accountable to potentially deal with this burden, but anybody doesn't live here, they're scot-free to drive through and make all the noise they want?
Yeah, I mean,
It would be, but if you stop them and they fail to recognize the rule, you could.
Who's gonna stop them?
Well,
Who's gonna stop them? We can't stop the.
You could order them out of it.
If they voluntarily stop and talk.
Yeah, but they won't voluntarily stop,
Yes, San Burton, lot 1070. So our roads were designed by an engineering firm. We know the thickness of the substrate that's underneath it. We know the thickness of the asphalt. State of Indiana follows Indiana DOT standards. Like we're trying to specify weights for our roads that are based on what an engineer designed and what was installed based on some standard.
Actually, our roads were gravel for many years, like the first 35, 40 years, and they were driven on and that had been compacted. And then we put some chip and seal down.
Yeah.
And then we put some blacktop down. We don't come anywhere near close to Dearborn County standards for roads. The Dearborn County standard for roads is 8 inches of compacted base with 4 inches of blacktop on top of that. I doubt that we have 4 inches of blacktop anywhere, and I know for a fact we do not have 8 inches of base anywhere.
Yeah, so that I appreciate that that back history, but I think that proves more to the point, Chris, what you're saying is table it, because if you don't have an idea of what the what you're trying to put something on, how can you judge what weight you can put on it? It's impossible. And
I think that's why we gave the option to either remove both those clauses until further evaluation, if the safety and security committee wants these other changes in place, or just table the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, so I know the main goal for this project was to consolidate, but not to ultimately change the substance of the bylaws that were in place. So this is a bylaw that's been in place for, I don't know how long. Right. And so, you know, that's something that if we want to address that, you know, we can do that down the road. But as part of this revision, you know, the goal wasn't to go through and pick all those things out. So that's where I would like to see that this get approved. And if that's something that we need to look at, we can certainly look at it and make that change down the road, because it ultimately isn't adding anything in that isn't there now.
So the decibel rule is in there the way we didn't add to that.
So originally the rule that was in place was that you could not make any modification from factory to your equipment. And that's another thing, which how are we gonna, yeah, you know, I mean, so,
Yeah.
A few of the vehicles that we all drive every day, it would be outlawed.
I think we get it now. We got RVs up and down this road.
No, I'm talking about a Ford F-150.
I agree.
A Suburban, a Tahoe.
What do you want to do?
They're all over that weight limit.
I'd like to see it either removed or table it, so. We just need to address that.
Make a motion to table.
So I'll make a motion to table this.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're gonna table it so we can address those two things.
Everything else looks good. So there's two things that trying to get away from things we're unable to enforce or had makes quite a few people already illegal. Officially there. I know it's in it, but it's something that should have also been updated before we update this.
Thank you.
Also, I just wanted to, so I had communicated to me that there was a resident concern, anonymously. I don't have the ability to respond to that specific resident. That in the past, there had been something in our bylaws, that limited it or put a time frame on mowing the grass, using a lawnmower, things to that effect, which is not found in our bylaws anywhere else at this point. There is something about construction noise. As far as our committee was concerned, you know, we do have a section on nuisance and noise, but it's relative to fireworks, you know, nuisance noises to that effect. So we felt that that wasn't something that fell within our purview. It may be something that is more maybe in architecture's purview, but I wanted to just let it be known that we did discuss that, so that whoever had that concern knows that it didn't go by the wayside. I also kind of in our where we have dead meetings, holidays, things like that, and we don't. I received a concern from a resident asking us to put in a stop sign on Alpine at Timber Ridge. Thank you. Because they were concerned with speed and things like that, but we don't use stop signs to mitigate speeders. So, and that was another anonymous submission that we received in our mailbox. So I just want to let it be known that those were addressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay?
Employer election panel, lot 1570. I request a motion for the second reading of the election policies and procedures 1-3.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Yes, 1 second. This is the, yeah, this is this one. Yeah. Angel?
Hi, Angel Packer, lot 1878. Just a couple questions on the second reading. Can you please define the election panel? I couldn't find where the definition of the election panel was found within the bylaws. So who is this? How is it formed? How do people join? And are there term limits?
Yes, that has been addressed and that is in the bylaws.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
How many people are on it?
Great.
And does it have term limits, or how do you join? Like, how does a community member become involved in the election?
The election panel was formed from the safety. It broke off. We asked to be separated because safety had too much to do, and that was granted. And out of that, I had been on the election committee. It is now a panel. We've got approval from the board on that, and we have a secretary and a co-chair.
So the three of you are the what you would call the chair, the co-chair, and the secretary. Okay. And then do you have meetings so that people can attend? So the committee as a panel. Okay. Okay. Second question. Who makes up the counting task force?
We ask residents to help us count.
Okay, so has there been any consideration to having committee chairs be part of that county task force? Because it seems like this is another situation where you can have groups become embedded and influenced, and there's no way for there to be any inflow and outflow into that group as a community. It's just something of a concern. So I was wondering, have you ever given thought to using your committee chairs to act as a counting task force?
It's an idea. I have not done it, although every year there are different people chosen.
Who just comes out of the election panel, or do you use the board to actually come up?
The board does not become involved because that is kind of a chicken and hen.
But it kind of goes both ways too, right? No, I get it. Okay, so just something, I was concerned about as far as term limits, task force. Nice to hear that they rotate in and out.
And they are anonymous. No one knows who they are.
Okay.
And they will not be divulged.
All right, and do you have a criteria you look for? Do you look for age demographics, sex, diversity, race? What do you look for?
Just the same as it would be for someone running the board.
Okay. Yeah, and is there a reason, like, is the panel disclosed? Who the panel members are? We know you are on the panel, but like, who's your co-chair and who's your secretary?
My co-chair is Bobby Clark. And the secretary is Becky Wars.
Okay.
Thank you, Angel. I think, we, and again, in the interest of keeping it moving.
The only other thing I was gonna say is I have concerns in here about that I really think we need to consider making sure that when we have a board, and I'm reading through your election, all these things, that we don't end up with a board with more than 50% of an appointed board makeup. So that's one of the concerns.
So there was a motion, there was a second, we can take it to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Jenny, the thing for me on this is just because Rich is working on a new way to vote. And it's going to significantly change this entire process. We're going to try to bring a third party in. And we're close to having that done.
Yes.
So let's hold off and see what we can work out. If it's going to be something from our own side, if there's going to be a third party completely doing all of the handling of ballots and stuff. And then we can re-review, modify this and go through it. So, agree? That's where I'm coming from. Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah,
what's that?
You need to vote.
We voted. Yeah. Yeah, we just did. It's failed 2-3.
I just would like to request everybody just put their differences aside, think about some of the things we got coming up. We'd love to have everybody here and let's get to know each other, and committed people do have breakdowns, and I think we saw that tonight. Doesn't mean anything, it just happens. So anyway, our first annual camp out was kind of a wash, nothing too hot. Myself and a really nice young couple, we camped and we had fire and had some work and we did all stuff. So, we took a chance on the weather and it didn't work. So we might have one this fall. So the pool party is Saturday from whatever 8 to 11:30. So welcome anybody to come out. It's very low key. Just jump in the water and just enjoy each other's company. No glass, but very coolers, that's fine. Beach family nights, 6 to 9 on Fridays. Brian Bay's right there, and Becky Austin. You guys are doing a great job. Just real informal. Welcome you to be there. And here's our big event, the Luau on the 13th. A little bit early this year. There's some conflicts as we normally have them a little bit later. 6:30 to midnight. We're going to try to pitch in again like we have in years past. Something that can stand the heat. Desserts are great, but just got to be careful what you bring. We're going to smoke through hogs again. We've got those on order, and Brian will also be the DJ there. Split the pot, raffles, and you might hear something. We try to spread some of the setup and tear down in the community just to help out, because it is a big deal and we love it. You're going to see tickets on sale real soon. So we welcome everybody to come out and have a good time, set aside any of the conflicts and enjoy each other.
Any old business? Any new business? Yeah, I got something. This will not take long. Name's Doug Gabbard, lot 280 and Blue. I do a lot of work with Rich, as you see me back there at all meetings. I work at Microsoft, so I just need to disclose that. Been there for 20 years. I've been working on back-end servers, identity, and everything like that. Our server upstairs is on a version that's not supported anymore. Its server's 12 years old. It's going to die. What was the estimate, David? $13,000? Yeah. To replace. That's a lot of money. I could build that server for probably about 5,000 or less. So I'm sure it's part of labor. But I'm starting to discover a lot of other places for improvements. One is the elections, or what was my backup? Our webpage is outsourced. It's on WordPress if you care. We pay for that. We also have what Rich has been looking at that will help on the voting, maybe barring the laws, is voting. There's a place called Enumerate that designs websites for POAs and HOAs. The benefit you get on that is we put security on it. Right now, our webpage is open to the public. Anyone in the world can read, see, and everything. Our budgets, everything. Our emails of our board, everything. So we can lock it down that you have to be a member of our community to actually see certain portions of the website and make public what we want to make public. So I'm looking at that. If we take that away from our current web design that we have right now and move it to Enumerate, we can get rid of with MailChimp that we use that you get your notifications, because all this is encompassed in this one product. It's designed for HOAs and POAs. But what I'm after here, the biggest goal of me coming up here is I want to start a new committee. It's going to take a bylaw change. I want this committee to be for technology. I'd like to request approval to get this started, because this is a lot of work. If I'm going to do all this work, if I do all this work and there's not a committee, I'm going to quit doing the work, because I can't do this by myself. There's no way in the world I can do all this. I need a committee of about 5 to 6 people, or that we have technology. I can't just let anyone in the community be a member. They have to be tech savvy.
Remind me, a gentleman reached out to me named Jared Young that just moved in the community last year. Do you know him?
The name sounds awfully familiar.
He's IT for the company that thought he came from, but he asked to become a member.
Okay, yeah, that's what we needed, because you know, Rich is inundated with a lot of different technology. Yeah. We can consolidate it into a single product, get rid of things. It'll work out to be a wash and cost. That server upstairs, you know, the gentleman that provides support, we pay him monthly on day-to-day support to help the office. The things I'm looking at is lifecycle management on the PC that we got. So we can say, hey, we need to buy a new PC every 4 years for everyone. Don't wait till they all come broke one day. That type of stuff.
I think they have support. There's actually, it's on my list to talk at the next executive meeting.
Well, propose, let me get this proposed up. For approval, the stand up the committee, I will write up a first reading, maybe next month or August. At the board meeting, say this is what the committee makeup will be, the responsibilities of the committee, and I'll work with you, Chris, on that.
Perfect.
You know, so I'm not
meanwhile, let's walk hand in tandem with the server. Jeff. It's not wait.
Yeah, that's well. We don't want to. I want to totally get rid of the server. I want to shut the server down and throw it away.
Yes.
It's a liability. It's an old technology. We're not using modern technology up there whatsoever.
You have our support on that. I just think that if you can get the language, Chris wants to introduce it to the.
Yeah. We're going to have to live on that server for a while.
We understand the urgency.
Okay. All right. We'll get that committee started. Let me write that up. And we'll get probably Rich on the committee, and
again, I got some folks.
Yeah, you've got folks on. Grant Smiley said he wanted to be on. So, like I said, we need people that are tech savvy, like our friends. So that's what I'm after.
Yeah, shoot me an email tonight, and we'll get going as soon as you get the verbiage to begin before our next executive meeting. I'm going to start talking about it.
That meeting?
It's on the
second to
July. Okay.
Monday the 8th is our next one.
It's not tomorrow.
Not July. July 8th.
All right. Well, thanks. That's what I like to do.
Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, Andy Preacher, 3212. This is kind of old business. I was here 2 months ago, and Matt, you and Chris are new to this board, so I figured I'd bring it up again. So our bylaws, do those hold any legal weight, our bylaws? Are those legal documents, or those just suggestions for the community that we can kind of pick and choose what we want to do?
Well,
They hold weight. Yeah, no, they hold legal weight when we're not making stuff up as we go.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So can a magistrate make a unilateral decision to alter our bylaws? Do we fight that? Do we just let them state what they want and they don't do anything? I know we got a lawyer that represents us, but I'm just figuring, trying to figure out what kind of weight we hold. Because if I decide I want to park my car in the grass, the magistrate says, sorry, Kid Valley, he's parking in the front yard, we can stand for that, we can fight that.
Can I answer that? Because I have some experience with that. Historically, judges they don't want to get involved in the internal workings of a POA. But if you're referring to something that would come from a domestic relations situation, then the POA will of course honor whatever the order is of a magistrate in domestic relations.
Only if it's a domestic, so nothing else, it's domestic orders or.
And in this case,
Well, I can't say with certainty nothing else.
We can certainly look into it for you.
We have not had an occasion yet where we have gone to court with a resident where the judge has found against the POA.
Okay, sure, it's on there, or are we gonna let magistrates override our bylaws? Single-handedly.
No, what I'm saying is a resident took us to court and the judge upheld our bylaws. But in the case of a legitimate domestic relations order, we, like any
it wasn't
company.
domestic relations order, it was a decree.
I think, is this related to the boat slip thing?
It sure is.
Okay.
It sure is.
If you could just articulate it.
Okay, I'll get real specific.
No. Just if you could just send us an email, what we can do then is we can go get legal opinion on it and actually give you something you can work with versus just the opinion of 3 or 4 or 5 non-attorneys.
Okay, I just figured since we're board members and we're familiar with the bylaws.
Well, but that doesn't mean that we're familiar with how Indiana laws, statutes, bylaws.
So could I potentially get an answer on this within the next 30 days or so?
Yeah, I think so, but
it was 2 months ago I was here and I got nothing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we didn't follow up on that.
No, you were here.
I was in the yard.
Well, actually, I was here.
Right.
And as I recall, you was asking the board, you said that in court, your wife, ex-wife was given, some property.
Or accepted was specific to the property.
And I don't see how this board can override.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like
we can get you an answer.
So don't backpedal.
We can get
something I'm bringing to your attention.
I'm trying to make a comment there.
It sounds like you're trying to blow me off.
I'm not blowing you off.
I'm not talking. I'm talking.
Okay. Would you send me an email?
I will send you.
Thank you. We'll get you a lead.
No. Now there's a part 2 to this too. Okay. So if someone's got a boat slip and they haven't parked the boat there all year and they're parking somebody else's boat slip, and that guy hasn't parked his boat there all year, how do we handle that? So there's said person that got my boat slip with the court hasn't had that boat parked all year. She parked in somebody else's boat slip.
If they're paying for the boat,
years longer to get their boat slips.
If they're paying for the boat slip, they can do whatever they want to do.
You can't stop that boat slip there?
No, you can't. You can also.
So if someone got a boat slip and doesn't have their boat parked, they can let someone else park it the whole year. And this other person has a boat slip, can move their boat over there and let someone else sublet their boat slip.
We're talking about the marinas here.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about the marina.
Brenda, can you give us clarification on whether or not you have to have a boat in the?
Ask Brenda, yeah.
Person who rents the POA and then boat slip have to put their registered boat with their registered decal in that slip.
Can they choose not to put a boat in the slip and pay for the slip?
They have to have a registered boat by July 1st to keep the slip.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they don't have to have a park there.
They don't have to have a park there.
So if someone's got a slip, they can let someone else use their slip?
They may not have to park there all the time because some
Okay,
people.
I'm telling you, I got pictures with timestamps. There's a slip on the other side that this boat has been parked in. That guy's not parked his boat there all year. And my ex-wife has her boat parked there while she's holding down the slip right behind Willie's, letting people park there on the weekends. Well, I got pictures, they're timestamped. So
Okay, all good
Okay,
points, and clearly I wasn't educated on that, so thank you for helping.
At the very least, they should lose their, privileges, they probably should have stickers stripped off their boats.
Do you know the slip number you're talking
Oh,
about?
yeah. Mine is Dock 27. Been there all year, except the last weekend when we were so far weekend. Dock 5 doesn't belong to my ex-wife. Her boat's been parked all year. There's a guy named Keith Theobald, friend of hers. He hasn't had his boat, still sitting in the driveway. Her boat's been parked all year.
So again, if you could,
Send us the email.
send us that in email too, yeah. And then we can give you a good opinion on it.
I appreciate that. I'm not going away. I'm a good dude. I do a lot for the community, but I'm not taking this to find out, okay?
It's all right. Any more new business? I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
All right.